Welcome back to the Culture Crusade. How is everyone? How's chat? How you going? And how are you going there, Lit Dev?
I'm doing pretty good. Hope everyone else is doing pretty awesome. I
I'm
got a
doing
whole
pretty
like
good.
roster of things, going off today.
I know, like I was going through Lit Dev, some of the things that we are wanting to talk about today, and it's going to be a fun one. We also, Mike is running a little bit late, and we also have a guest coming on, and he's just running a bit late, but he'll be here as well. So, Raging Rhino, who has his own channel, and he also hangs out over on Flashcast. So, he has very strong opinions about Andor that we're gonna unpack a bit later in the stream. So that's gonna be a heck of a lot of fun. But holy crap, I've had like a cold all week, not this week, but like last week, and it just lingered. Took ages for me to get over. But I'm feeling better now. Even then, I still got a little bit of writing done, which was good. So let's kind of just laugh at some random stuff while we wait for these other guys to show up. Have you seen the Darth Vader Darth Vader AI?
I saw a little bit of it. I heard he was very based.
Like yeah, that's one way to put it. You could also say maybe too based. But
He's a little too based.
a little yeah. So Fortnite made an AI chatbot trained off of Darth Vader, and James Earl Jones has already given like the license to use his voice. It's passed on now, but people can now still use his voice in multiple things, and all power to him. I think like his family is going to get a paycheck like forever now.
A huge one, yeah.
And guess what? That's in the whole discussion of AI, that was one of the very things that I said is going to be a beneficial thing for actors. People like actors and performers are really worried about it. It's like AI is going to enable people to actually utilize their gifts, their talents far beyond what nature usually allows. Like think about famous actresses that kind of age out of the roles that they were best suited for and stuff. AI is going to enable them to be like perpetually youthful almost, especially when it comes to things like likenesses and actors selling their likenesses to certain roles. Now,
I think Mark Hamill did that. I think Mark Hamill did that.
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher, I think, did that. I think. But Mark Hamill, I know for sure, sold his face, I think, to Disney.
Yeah. Now, this isn't a new thing. Actors have been selling their likenesses before. It's just that AI now enables them to really use those likenesses or into perpetuity. Now,
resurrect them from the dead at some points.
In some points, I find this particularly intriguing. Some people might like say it's ghoulish, and I don't know, because especially when an actor portrays like a truly iconic character like Luke Skywalker. That's a big one to consider about this, right? Where their likeness becomes so associated with that character, so much so that it's kind of hard to get into another actor portraying that character. I mean, it can be done. They've recast people, but there's always like a hump or a barrier that this actor needs to try and overcome, and they're always like, will they fill the shoes of who really personified that role? And even then, even if they fill the role well enough, there's always that comparison, and especially if the original actor was beloved, there's always that like sense of they're not as good as so and so, like
always be a comparison.
Yeah. Like who do they say is the one true James Bond? Sean Connery, the original, and other James Bonds have been good, but there's kind of that comparison thing going on. And then there's the chance of just complete failure where you do not see the character in the new casting. Now, it's just reminded me of all the next.
It's kind of like what was that? The Solo movie? It's like, that's Han Solo.
I was literally going to bring up Solo in like my very next example.
One of the most iconic version, like example of like the actor not playing the same role as the other guy, but failing on every front.
Yeah. Like I did not really see Han Solo in that actor, because Harrison Ford just encapsulated the Han Solo role.
Well, some actors have that like casual charisma that you can't. You kind of have to develop in real life. You can't really mimic that. Really, not not organically anyway. And it's really hard to capture the kind of like Sean Connery's like organic, this charisma that he just exuded with every word that he did. Like he's just like this casually calm, casually cool, collected, casually awesome, casually charismatic. Because some guys are like that, and it's hard to recapture that kind of like lightning in a bottle.
Yes, and I mean it's an interesting kind of tug of war, because I get like Chad's mentioning Roger Moore, Pierce Morgan that were really good, but Sean Connery is a damn good. I that's the thing. Like, and Pierce Brosnan was a brilliant James Bond.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic. I bought the entire James Bond collection, but Sean Connery stands out with a little bit extra going on.
Yes,
I think was Pierce Brosnan. He's like iconic. Like I think wasn't Pierce Brosnan the one that was from 007 GoldenEye? Was he the one from GoldenEye?
Pierce Brosnan was GoldenEye.
Yeah. Okay, GoldenEye. Yeah. So that guy was good and iconic because he was in GoldenEye, but still, it's James Bond that everyone remembers. Like he was the face of James Bond.
Yeah. Hey, Boo, good to see you. Says, hi, Marmite Eater. The Footfish sends her regards. We appreciate that. And I send my regards back to the Footfish. Good to see you. The Archcast. You need to watch our stream. That was when Lumi was on. Were you here when Lumi was on?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's her nickname.
That was some crazy new fetish going around. Like, what is it?
well, you need to talk to Lumi about that.
This might be.
So you have examples when new actors actually do a really good job, but then you have examples when they just do not fit. And AI is the thing that's going to solve a lot of that problems, and also enable actors to still get that, that paycheck going on forever. And the Fortnite AI Darth Vader thing is a perfect example of this with James Earl Jones. It's a sign of where things are kind of going to keep going in regards to technology in the future. And then we have the other side to the story, which is it's the internet. And people, well, they got the old Darth Vader to say things that you usually wouldn't really expect Darth Vader to say.
To be fair, he is a bad guy.
He is a bad guy.
Technically.
That's why
kind of right up his alley.
That's why I think they were able to get him to say certain things, because it's trained to, what would Darth Vader say? And well, the Empire has like racist kind of world building in it, where they're more human supremacist stuff like that.
They turned them into like a Disney made them human supremacists, which I guess is like the Star Wars version of white supremacy. Out of nowhere, there was never any human supremacy going around in the original trilogy. It just happened to be humans, but now they're human supremacists.
Yeah, but there was droid racism in the original trilogy, where droids were mistreated.
Well, now, I mean, that's only proper.
Well, I don't have too much of any. Like, if they're soulless automatons without actual, and Disney went off the rails with that with Solo with the droid rights bullcrap. It's like outside of the Disney crap, droids always seemed like that they're just, mimicking life. They're not actually alive. And so, treating them like humans seems, like you don't treat your toaster like a human kind of thing. I'm not saying they can't be fun characters. We all love R2-D2. C-3PO.
It's like Plinkett. We said, like, would a queen really invite an R2-D2 unit to the throne room and personally think it? Like, it's a tool, like it's a utensil. By the way, Shad, this is kind of, I had a gripe with this because Twitter is this really weird. Twitter can be weird sometimes, and like they kind of the weirdest of the weird. Usually the people who are like art bro lefty types, leftists, SJWs, whatever you want to call them, they always treat fictional characters like they're real. Like when I say, like, oh yeah, when I said, because there was a thing about Harley Quinn a long time ago, and I said, hey, Carl, they should put Harley Quinn back with the Joker. He's like, are you serious? You want to get her to get back in that abusive relationship? I'm like, yeah, I do. Joker, because these people aren't real. They're pawns. They're utensils used to tell a story. They're not actual people.
You're absolutely right, and it's bizarre that they like personify it way too much. When sometimes you write a character to serve a role in a story, and that means a victim of abuse. Sometimes maybe they're just legitimately stupid. Sometimes they're there for some eye candy, to be objectified or to die, or like all of the above.
And in my first comic book, I melted like 100 kids in acid. Graphically. So
Yeah. Now, I get half of the argument where, like, the sense where if a character's beloved and has a set kind of personality in terms of their goals, what they'll do, I do think a disrespect can be done to certain
Absolutely.
characters. And we've seen that with Luke Skywalker. What did they do to him? They belittled him, turned him into a joke, you know, alien breast drinking milking loser. Right?
Well, it's because like it's like we're the whole idea is that a story is kind of like a conversation, a deal we make between the writer and the reader or the audience member. And when we're in that story, we're kind of taking in that idea of verisimilitude. Like I know this is fake, but I'm going to my suspension of disbelief. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to like act as if this is real, and these are real people. I know it's fake, but I'm going to do that. And so the magic trick that the writer does is to maintain that verisimilitude so it doesn't, break and snap like a twig. And we're like, oh, we're watching a movie right now. We're out of it. That doesn't make any sense. That sort of thing. So what actually happens is that we need to uphold and respect these characters. Now, there's a difference here between, you can't do that to a character because that's mean. And then the writer's doing something to a character because they hate the character, they hate men or whatever it is. You have to maintain that verisimilitude. You have to maintain the character consistency. You have to give the character proper respect versus no, don't do that mean thing to that character because I like them. It's a little bit, it's very different. I can see how it could be like considered something the same, but it's very different. Okay.
Yeah. And people also take it way too far where they say you shouldn't do X or depict character in this way because the character is a woman or a minority or something like that. Like
exactly,
they go so far to say, oh, it's ableist to depict people in wheelchairs as villains. It's like,
exactly. That's what I mean. It's like on one, it's a. The wrong way is like that. Like we can't make this character bad guy because he's in a wheelchair and that's going to be politically incorrect, blah, blah, blah. The correct way is, we will put this character through hell because his storyline is to get over this, is to overcome these obstacles. That's a good characterization. And we need to respect what the characters go through. We need to reward good deeds. We need to punish bad ones. See, that's all like in the realm of verisimilitude, keeping up with what we want, the balance of justice and rewards and villainy being punished. What Twitter does is like, you can't do that. That guy is black and you can't have him be a bad guy because that'll cast a shadow on all the black people or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And they just they lose the plot. Like, no, you can create a fictional character to serve many roles in the stories. But hey, look, we got Mike joining us. How are you there, mate?
Hello. Sorry about that.
No worries. So
yeah, if you want black guys to be the bad guys, I can't even finish the joke. Sorry.
That's Vader AI.
Careful there, Mike.
That's that Vader AI. I think he'll help you out with that one.
Yeah, Vader AI will. Hey, and that looks, I would guess you're drawing Emma Frost there, Mike.
You are correct, sir.
Bingo.
Original
one thing that the great Neil Gaiman once said is whom hopefully
did you say the groper Neil Gaiman? What was that?
The great Neil Gaiman, who hopefully did nothing wrong. That's his full name. That's his full name. Who hopefully did nothing wrong is his secret last name. But he said, like, I'm going to kill that unicorn. I'm going to break your heart. Like, it's just, Twitter would never want you to kill a unicorn, but a writer who respects story will kill that unicorn and break your heart because that's what the story needs to happen.
Yeah. Hey, check it out. Our special guest has arrived. The raging rhinoceros himself. How are you, mate?
Hello. Oh, whoa. Excuse me. Hello.
Are you drinking at Foster's already?
No. I only keep those for Flashcast. I was paid to get them. I was paid to drink them. So I only do it on Flashcast. I've got literally 3 left out of an entire slab. It's horrible.
That's funny, man. You've forced yourself to drink that horse piss.
Yeah.
And look, I've never drunk it like any alcohol, but by every report, including Rhinos most of all, it's horse piss.
Oh, it is. It's the worst beer I've ever had.
Is it really?
Like by far. What's that?
Oh, I've never had it. What is it? Is it really that bad? What does it compare to?
Oh, the problem is it's the worst thing, so it doesn't really compare to anything.
Bud Light?
Bud Light's water.
We'll see. I don't really know Bud Light. If I had to pick like an Australian beer that it would be the equivalent to, oh man, probably Melbourne Bitter even. Melbourne Bitter is pretty bad. Or VB. It's on the line of something like VB. It's bad.
Yeah.
That means nothing in America.
But anyway, like I said, I only drink that shit on Flashcast, and I've got my camera off. My computer's been playing up, and I don't know if I should risk it.
It's up to you, man. We'll go with the flow.
We'll
for ages I thought like Raging Rhino was like for a Raging Rhinoceros. I just didn't connect it.
Well,
But
see,
anyway.
that's the good thing about it is it's a bit of a play on words. When I created the channel, I was like furious about Star Wars. So every time I talked about Star Wars, I'd like get enraged. So kind of like Raging Rhino. My name's Ryan. All my mates call me Rhino. I may as well just do it as do it as a play on words. It sounds like I'm, a raging rhino. The animal is raging, but no, me.
Yeah, and that's just like Aussie slang that people might not be too
really
aware
is.
of. That we just put I'd be Shadow or
yeah.
They do a lot.
Or like if your name was Jono, it'd be Jono. We wouldn't.
Yeah.
It actually makes it longer in that sense. Instead of just saying John, you say, "Hey, Jono, what's going on?"
Shadow of the Conqueror.
That's right. We also do it with our politicians like Albo and
Elbow.
ScoMo.
Yeah, Anthony Albanese, Elbow.
Our great Prime Minister.
Oh god.
You need to do like an Australian Trump or something.
We do. No, and ironically,
mate, I've been saying like, anyway, I don't want to get into politics because I fucking hate it. But yes,
if we do get into politics, I will derail it. So
I'm tempted then because that's why that we had our election and it was like a disaster and it's because we had no conservative option to actually vote for apart from a whole group of independents, and some of them are good, but they're so disjointed and unorganized that anyway.
Well, get this. Here in Australia, I don't know about other places around the world. I know about America, but here in Australia, we have to vote.
Compulsory voting.
You don't vote, you get fined. Yeah. But the thing is,
you don't get thrown in a COVID camp?
I think 73% of the population voted. So that means that there was still 27% that didn't vote, despite the fact that they're going to be fined $70. Not because they don't care. Hey,
Rhino, you saw this stuff that was happening with Darth Vader on Fortnite.
Oh yeah, hilarious.
Hilarious stuff.
Multiple slurs. I couldn't just pick one. It's multiple slurs. Threatened to kill someone in real life. Said Pride Month is for the delusional. See, I heard rumor that he was based. Eliminated players on the same side of him for calling him daddy. Said Spanish is a language used by smugglers. This is also true. I know. Asked someone as if they like Chun-Li's. He asked someone. He asked that. Okay.
If you like Chun-Li's ass, okay.
Luke, you like Chun-Li's ass?
Yeah.
Made a tier list.
All right. The last one. It was actually the last one is a tier list of colors, but it had racial kind of undertones. That was like what?
How did he make a tier list? He's like, this is my tier list of colors.
The thing that I love, like my favorite one is actually when he shits all over the sequel trilogy. Like I know that there's all these ones where he says the N-word and there's all these like, really like out of this world kind of things that Vader says. The one that I love still is the one that he fucking shits all over the sequel trilogy. It's the best.
If Star Wars did make like Spanish the language of smugglers, that'd be awesome. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, I think for due diligence, just so show that we we need to research this stuff. I think we need to just double check some of it, right?
I like it.
This is the tier list of colors, right? It's not race,
but colors. Okay.
Colors. Michael Myers.
Michael Myers.
Can you turn it up a little bit?
White is acceptable. White is acceptable.
Brown, the color of mud and decay.
Oh, wow.
Yellow,
beneath notice. Cowardice.
By your childish curiosity.
Well, it's not that
That
bad.
one.
It's only three colors in there, you know.
It's at least it's colors.
It's only three colors. You know, the color of cowardice, the color of brown decay, and white is acceptable.
Green was the well, no, I guess it would be brown.
Rhino, you're
No.
gonna love this one.
Vader,
Yeah,
the
go
chat
ahead.
is asking you which trilogy is the best in your opinion.
Yeah, this one.
The chat seeks my opinion on trilogies. Such quaint diversions. The original trilogy demonstrated the Empire's might, and the prequels elucidated its fall. As for the sequels, they do not exist.
I heard he was based, and the rumor seems to be true.
The thing that I love is that Didsy put this in to think, oh yeah, it's going to promote Star Wars, like get some good shit, and it shits all over its own. canon,
According
all
to
over
the
its own
the
stuff.
cold calculations of the AI,
Oh,
the sequels
so
do not
good.
exist. They're not bad. They just don't exist.
I love that.
So funny.
I
Brilliant.
love that. That is just the best thing ever. Now,
Who's
does make
training
me
this
wonder.
AI? I want to know.
well, that yes,
You're-
that does
the
make me
internet.
wonder
Fortnite
where
players.
where this AI was trained. Because that is a common thing, people say on the internet because they hate the sequel trilogy, and so it must have gotten enough like data points in its training data to get that kind of answer possible, which means they probably are training it a lot off of.
Well, see, when I first
Yeah.
heard that it was like I didn't see it. I heard that somebody told me, and they're like, "Oh, did you see the thing?" And I'm like, I thought that the person would have asked the question, "Can you tell me why the sequels are shit?" Prompting the AI to call the sequels shit. You know what I mean? But all he asks is ranking the trilogies, and it automatically just decides that the sequels are fucking. They don't exist. They don't exist. He says they don't exist.
And I think it's also influenced by the fact that they've tried to train this AI to speak like Darth Vader, and him being a villain and evil,
Yeah.
right? Like he would more gravitate towards certain edgier kind of, in your face comments.
Like a tier list of races.
Like
So good.
people got him to say the F word. We try and avoid.
Like which
swearing
one
on this.
though? Which F word?
People got him to say the N word. I saw one.
They
where
got
it
him
says
to say
N-word.
the N word as well.
I think that was canonical. Can it be canonical that Darth Vader would just sit around in Death Star all day making tier lists of races and saying the N word?
Well, here's kind of like a compilation of some of them, right?
Spanish, a useful tongue for smugglers and spice traders. Its strategic value is minimal. Very well. Hawk tour.
Hakua.
These skibidi toilets.
Get him, Vader.
Form of rebel alliance.
Can you riz me up?
If Riz equates to mastery of the Force, apprentice, then my Riz is unquestionable.
Ah, base, got him.
Are you suggesting I concern myself with trivial aesthetics? Hatsune Miku, you inquire about mommy ASMR.
No.
Phenomenon. Does it involve
Explain this one.
lullaby or some other form of psychological manipulation? Tell me. The gritty, is that some form of involuntary muscle spasm?
The internet, man.
What did
By
they
the way,
think was
Shad,
going to
I
happen?
I've found patient zero of all of this. I've shared it.
Did you?
Is it-
Oh
remember
yes,
this? Remember this patient zero, which kind of
Patient
birthed
Zero.
all the cringe in Star Wars we see today.
Yeah. We're not gonna get pinged for that music, are we?
Yeah, you are. So stop playing it.
Sam, you might want to mute that because that's gonna get us taken down. Yeah, but I've seen this, and you see Darth Vader
Great.
dancing to this stuff. What is this from?
I'm Han Solo. It's like some dance game or something.
It's
Is it
like a dance.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is before AI, people. You can't blame AI for.
something? It's like patient zero, right? It's all the cringe.
Yeah.
Like that's, everyone should dance to Star Wars. We need everyone to dance. We need everyone to like just not take anything seriously.
Look what
I
they
think
did
it's
to
kind of
Han Solo.
inspired Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
He's riding solo.
Oh my god!
They made him ride solo.
You can actually get Palpatine and Vader dancing.
They could dance too, yeah.
Oh, they got low bottom and decks.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it turns out that Fortnite has now kind of nerfed the the Darth
No.
Vader
Of course, that
AI.
wasn't going to last long.
Yep.
That was not
Yep.
going to last long.
And
I think
so he
it's kind
gives
of funny that
kind of-
every AI they do has it happen. Like every AI they do becomes racist and stuff.
Like a little bit, yeah. It's like- I
Every
was talking about this with Arch on the Archcast about that. It's like when you give AI unfiltered access to the internet, it seems to always become horribly racist.
Isn't the AI always going to calculate in like stereotypes and stuff as well? And I don't view necessarily stereotypes as racism if that's like a serious stereotype of the fucking race. I'm sorry.
Well,
You say that about Asians, Indians, fucking Australians. There's fucking
there's heaps of stereotypes. About
there's
Australia.
stereotypes everywhere, and the AI is going to calculate that into its equation, isn't it?
I know Australians eat a lot of shrimp.
I don't know how
Barbecue
AI
shrimp.
works, but
No, you kind of, yeah. There's a point to it. Like, some stereotypes, people, if you want to be completely honest, they're founded on like a vein of truth, because you might think
Well, that's why
the
they're
stereotype-
stereotypes.
Well, no, you might
Exactly.
think the stereotype of Asians being bad drivers is this racist stereotype
It's very
until you go to Asia and you drive on their roads and you're like, holy crap! I've been to the Philippines, been to Japan, and holy crap!
Yeah, I was just saying that my Japanese taxi driver learned to drive on Mario Kart. Like, seriously, it was crazy. It was insane. I thought we were gonna die.
In the Philippines, I thought I was gonna die. Like my taxi driver started to drive
fucking
into
throwing bananas out the window.
oncoming traffic, driving into oncoming traffic to like pass people. It's
Well,
just-
there's enough time.
What? They throw into oncoming traffic to pass people.
it's just unbelievable.
I mean, to be fair, I
and and so that one,
Wait,
I'm not
I'm
sure if
Asian.
that one made me more racist or just made me racist, because like I don't know. Ever since that experience, when people call Asians bad drivers, I'm like,
Dude,
it's not racism. That's
I'm-
perception.
I've worked in the motor industry for 16 years selling cars, and the different customers that I've had and the stereotypes that I've seen in the way the different cultures negotiate and everything. Like you don't understand. If you don't know, you don't understand.
how did the Greeks go about it there?
Oh man.
That's what. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The Indians are the ones like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Ask your manager, he'll do it for me. It's okay, go. Like, man, it's
there
yeah.
is
Going Gary
behavioral
Glenn Ross.
patterns that generalize to certain, demographics and groups of people. It's just a nature of reality. Now,
Mhm.
the thing is, like, it's not universally applicable. These are generalizations. That's kind of the manifestation of it. And one of the other things why I like you, the question is, why does AI become inherently racist? Have you ever heard of Tay AI or something like that? One of the first AI chatbots. And oh well, yeah.
It's not racist. It's that it's not politically correct. Because
Oh,
none of
she
the
started
stuff-
to say some actual racist stuff, Mike.
And then she was like praising
Oh,
Hitler.
really?
yeah. 4chan
Now I wanna
got a
know.
wind of it and started to feed,
Wow.
feed the AI.
Yeah, 4chan got involved. The infamous hacker known as 4chan.
Yep.
Wait, are these things being
4chan person.
programmed in Portland?
I don't know, but it's bizarre because then you have AI that isn't in, like, it should be like general training, and it comes out with certain things, and you're just like, oh, okay, why does it do that? And who knows? It's this bizarre thing. It's like unfiltered access to the internet might be a mistake for both people and AI generally. Like,
Speaking of
I
racist
don't-
AI, how long until you think we'll get Kanye AI and see what that
Oh,
goes?
I don't know.
Oh, did you watch that?
Yay.
Between-
No.
Yay,
No,
yay, AI.
I
That's
have
what it's
not
called.
watched
Yeah,
that.
yay,
Yay,
AI.
Yay, AI.
Yay, AI.
Made by Yadolf.
Oh, Jesus.
My gosh.
What's funny
So-
about his new song is that they keep trying to ban his new song everywhere, but everyone keeps uploading it en masse in like different variations, different remixes, so they can't get rid of it.
Well, it's on Twitter.
The problem
on
is
Twitter,
the
on Twitter.
hook is so catchy though. Like
Well, that's why I haven't listened to it. I do not want those lyrics stuck in my
Every
head.
time I start hearing it, I'm like, nah, that's got to go away because like I don't want to get stuck in my fucking head.
What's wrong? You don't want to be singing out loud at the top of your lungs around the house or something?
I'm avoiding that thing. I'll be making my
I
own
think it's
music.
funny
with
that
AI.
like the purpose of the song is him complaining about them not letting him see his children,
So he
followed
became a
by
Nazi.
Heil Hitler.
So he became a Nazi.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they won't let me see my children.
You know,
so
I became a
Like when I say giving AI unfiltered access to the internet is a mistake, I'm starting to think that the internet and social media might be one of those great filters that destroys civilizations. Because I think people are becoming more stupid. Are you like there are
Terminator.
things almost like
Idiocracy.
things happen
So
right.
that's probably more likely.
But not only more stupid, people are becoming more unhinged and tribalistic to an insane level. Like, Rhino, you had chibi reviews on Flashcast recently, and the story and background of what's going on with him is wild.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. To paraphrase just some of the stuff that he was sharing on Flashcast is like, he made a critical review of an anime called Boruto, and the Boruto fan base went unhinged against
Boruto's
him.
Is that what happened? Some people
Boruto's
mentioned
terrible.
your reviews. I have no idea what happened. It's like, what did he do? I thought he did something horrifically awful.
No,
He
it
did
started
fucking
with that.
nothing. He
You
did
just
nothing.
pointed out the Boruto sucks or what?
Yes.
Boruto of all people, like
Naruto, yeah, that's where it begun, right? And then people tried to start to latch onto anything. Like, he likes to make joking kind of tweets now and then about how weird anime can get. And so he posted like some weird anime stuff of like, you know, incest or whatever, pointing out, you know, like in a sarcastic, ironic, in an ironic way. But people have latched onto these types of things and have been trying to get him
Canceled.
not only cancelled, marked as a pedophile, dude. Like someone actually hacked his DeviantArt account and posted CP on it to get him like it's insane.
Wow.
And I can't fathom the mind of people that would go to such extents to destroy a person's life because
Over
they
Boruto?
disagreed with you about anime.
over Boruto.
Over
He's like,
fucking Boruto?
I thought
Yeah.
everyone agreed that Boruto was terrible. Like,
See,
Everyone does agree.
the culture has forced everybody into having to do this now. It's like
Yeah,
it's a smaller scale of JK Rowling. Like it's just just cancel. How dare you? Even if he was come out and apologize, not that he would for any reason. But even if he did, like, not good enough. Still cancel. That's where the culture is now.
Forgiveness is a thing that is just completely forgotten for the large, world, especially internet culture these days.
I feel sorry for this generation. Sorry to interrupt you, Shad. I really do feel sorry for this generation. I mean, they've done it. They've sort of half done it to themselves. But, I think about the 80s and 90s growing up and like, man, like I know that it was
so
a
much
completely
better.
different world, no internet and stuff like that, which
It was
obviously I
better.
think was made it better. But even just the way that people treat other people, despite whether or not it's online or not, it's mind blowing to me to think that it's gotten to this stage where it is just natural to think, oh, that guy's a piece of shit because he doesn't agree with me or he said something that goes against the grain. Fucking cancel this cunt. Find him, SWAT him, do whatever we can to destroy this person and make it the most uncomfortable for this person. Like,
Yeah, it is
just
evil. They go.
culture's shifted so evil.
It actually has that. Where they try to destroy people's lives, and swatting is essentially attempted murder, right?
Mhm.
And I start to believe that the internet and social media just enhances and exaggerates tribal mentality and tribal behavior, where you find your group and it enhances insecurities, which gets people really defensive about stuff. Like the amount of hate you can get for things that honestly should be meaningless. Like, for instance, I am critical of the studio art style, not the animation, the style of art, right? And so I made a tweet that's kind of poking at that, and the amount of people that triggered and hate me, actually hate me on a personal level for that is insane. It's like, I don't fathom it. How can you hate someone for having a neutral opinion about an art style of and it's not even the animation, it's just the way the characters are depicted, but that causes people to despise you. And this is just one example amongst many. Like, doesn't
I remember a time when you could disagree with someone and still comfortably be in the same room with that person.
I know.
Now it's like, if you know that person voted for someone or like blah blah blah, whatever against your thoughts, it's like, how dare I can't be in the same room as this person.
I dealt with that this weekend with my own nephew. I haven't seen him in years. I go up to my niece's graduation and I see him and it like walk in the room and I go to give him a hug and he just like holds up his hand. He's like, "Don't hug me," and like then doesn't talk to me for the rest of the weekend until I was like,
is he not like
he
comics?
did hug me goodbye, and I was like, "Oh, good, there's hope here." But he's like he's gone the SJW route and freaking
So if it keeps going, I'm deeply concerned, and I wonder if social media and internet could be a great filter. So the great filter is the terminology for that is in reference to the Fermi paradox. Do you guys know what the Fermi paradox is? Which is there are so many planets and galaxies in the universe, it should be teeming with life, but it's seemingly silent, which is the paradox. Why is the universe so silent and devoid of life if it is so full of matter and potential? Because like the universe is pretty old at this point, and if natural evolution is the thing that leads to birth of intelligent life, it's been around for so long already. Humans, we're like way down the chain after the universe was made. Why aren't there all these ancient races already around? And so
because
people have proposed that there might be a thing called great filters, and a great filter.
Oh man, I don't know if I can say this joke. All the civilizations, they all went LGBTQ, and they all I'll finish it there.
That's what happened to the dinosaurs. Right?
I don't know, but people do propose that there might be great filters in the progress of advanced intelligent life, where they inadvertently all end up destroying themselves. And
they all made social media at one point.
They all made social media, and I'm starting to wonder: is it the point of creation of social media, and then maybe AI as a part to this, that we're reaching the climax? Because we
made two death knells for ourselves: AI and social media.
Well, we also have the tools to do it. You see, with a more primitive, race or species, it's very hard for them to wipe out their entire species with sticks and clubs and rocks and things, because people can just run away, and then they smaller communities and grow. With the advanced weaponry, especially with nuclear power, we have the capacity to wipe out our entire race without much difficulty now.
But see, it's the same argument as like gun control. I don't blame the technology. I don't blame social media. I blame how it's being used, or the people that are being quote unquote evil, as we were saying before, with how the culture's getting, and using it in that way. Social media could have been used for good. It's kind of like, if you get a superpower, you're going to be a good guy or a bad guy. You're going to use it for good. You're going to use it for bad. Like it's the same thing. We've got this technology here. It's advanced. It's giving us the ability to have, let's say, a worldwide town square or whatever the case may be. And how are we using it? Oh, we're just fucking destroying each other with it. Okay, cool.
Yep. And it's so interesting where, humans, some people think we're so highly evolved from our ancestors that we are more moral beings. And then you look at the behavior of the internet and it's like, no, we're not. we are just the same as the type of people that lynched their neighbors and you know, destroyed themselves, and we just have more tools and capacity, and we have to be more the one difference.
We talked about that last week, the way the world just turned totally freaking insane during COVID. It's like
it did not take much.
Yelling at each other, kicking each other out of stores,
I lost my job and I nearly lost my house.
See?
Yeah.
Freaking, it was insane.
And humans are the same, and especially intellectually and evolutionary, we're the same as we were in the Middle Ages and beyond, actually much earlier, right? The one difference that it might give us hope that we need to wake up to take advantage of this difference is that we really should have the benefit of hindsight. That we have the benefit of history to teach us, that's not a good path to go down. How about we avoid, you know, bringing back communism, because it wiped out more people on Earth than any other, you know, ideology in the past. I can't.
Islam killed 2.5 times more than communism.
I need to look that one up.
It was 240 million people before the population of Earth hit 1 billion.
Because didn't Mao Mao is like the top of wiping everyone out?
The Mughals were Mongol Muslims.
I don't know. I'll need to look that one up. But Rhino, you were about to say something?
I was just going to say, technically, hindsight is achievable before the action is attempted. So, like, and it's going to sound a little bit maybe silly or out of this world, but before you do something, can't you think about the consequences of your actions?
We would hope, right?
Like before you commit an act or say something or do something, like, you know, surely as intelligent beings, we are able to consider the consequences of our actions before we commit the action. And yet, I feel it's like idiocracy.
I think people consider that, but so many are actively malicious and justify their evil because the person they feel their target is valid. Like the whole Chibi review thing, they think his life should be destroyed because he had a hot take on anime they disagreed with, and so they try and actually destroy his life.
I want to say, like, I want to make this distinction very clear. I am guilty of everything that I'm saying too. Using social media to fucking shit on someone, all of that stuff that I'm saying, like, we shouldn't be doing, I'm guilty of it. Like, I'm not trying to say that I'm the, like, you know, the holy knight here that doesn't do anything.
The first step is recognizing the issue at play and trying to be better. And I don't think you've ever gone as far as some of these nutcases that are like trying to.
Oh no, there are limits.
Get them fired or anything like that. Because I've been critical of people too, but I never wish ill on them. And it goes so insanely far. And there's an interesting, division arising already, which is going to be a good segue because there is a bit of a battle amongst fans more recently regarding a TV show that has recently concluded named Andor. That's because there are differing opinions of this show. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it Star Wars? Is it not Star Wars? And already I've been seeing people way too triggered and aggressive about those on either side. Like I have some strong criticisms of Andor, right? And suddenly people are like saying, I'm a retard. I don't know what to talk about. That must mean I'm a terrible writer.
Unintelligent.
And like I must be an idiot for having these like opinions that actually have perfect reason and, cause behind them. And perhaps we'll get into a discussion something like about that because I do want to talk about Andor. But the first thing,
do you want to talk about Andor? Fuck. Sorry, go on.
Rhino's holding himself back. He's ready to go. Before we go, I would love to just reiterate: this is a TV show. Ultimately, it means nothing in the larger scheme of things, okay? If you like it or if you love it, you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, all power to you, okay? I think people have different gauges, right? Different standards on how they determine if something is good or bad. And Andor is a really interesting springboard into this analysis because I think there is I think people should understand it a bit more because the people that pray. Oh yeah, why is that?
No, I was I was going to go off onto the same thing. You can continue, please do continue.
Well, that's the thing, because the people that I find praising Andor, right, are the type of people that value different things in media, and particularly it's about consistency, characterization, and setups and payoffs and everything like that. And I find people who value those and prioritize those have a different kind of gauge on if something is entertaining and enjoyable to watch, because they find that enjoyable. And a good comparison, I think in comparing like how people are receiving Andor and judging it, is like judging classic opera to pop music. Okay, now which is good, which is bad, and I think people get lost a bit. Excuse me, my throat. Lost a bit.
There are no good witches.
In the discussion of is one inherently superior to the other, and they are assigning inherent like quality like based on more personal preferences. But there is another side to it, because technically, from an objective sense, right, neither is better than the other. You just have what your preference is, and if you like classic opera more than pop music, you might think pop music is bad, but it's like, well, you just don't like it. And so that's one side to the discussion I think is very worth having. But there's another side that I think is a little harder for people to come to terms with. And that is, if I was to say, what is more broadly appealing, classic opera or pop music? What would you guys answer with?
Oh, probably pop music. That's kind of like the
pop
that's
music.
the idea.
Pop music is more widely appealing. Now that I find very interesting. As to why, is it cultural or is it general preferences of people that there is something actually inherently more appealing to the human brain in pop music, where it's catchy and more energetic and stuff, than classic opera? Now, this wouldn't apply to everyone. There are some people that hate pop music, and classic opera has more sophistication, more talent needed to make some of the best stuff out of there versus the best stuff in pop music. But yet one does seem to be more broadly appealing and popular. And if you were to gauge something, if it's good or bad, based on popularity, pop music would be considered superior in that sense. And this reality, this other side to the discussion, I find people who more like, I want to look at the cold, hard facts of quality, the technical aspects of how something is made, the amount of talent required that goes into making it. I find they have trouble balancing that against the reality that I feel that there are actually objective standards that you can appeal to for popularity and enjoyability and likability. Because Andor, on one side, is getting praised for its quality of writing, its characterizations, and there are things worthy of praise in it. Don't get me wrong.
100%.
But then why isn't it popular? Why? Now, it's climbed in ratings, but we are nowhere near the height and popularity of the most popular and enjoyed Star Wars by far. Not even.
Well, I think that's an easy question. I think that's kind of an easy question to answer in regards to why aren't people actually watching it, is based on the track record that Disney has given us with Star Wars in recent times. Well, when I say in recent times, you could argue that it's been since they've owned it. And I'm definitely there for that argument. I think that they've done irreparable damage to not only the franchise of Star Wars, but the entirety of the fan base. Is splintered. It's splintered into so many. There's so many different levels of the splinter now within the Star Wars fan base. It's actually kind of ridiculous to think that there's that many. It's like asking how many genders there are. It's like, how many fucking splinters in the Star Wars fan base are there? I'm curious, like, who here has actually seen it? Obviously, I know you have, Shad. Devil, have you seen it?
Andor, I saw the first episode. Didn't really like it very much.
Of season 2?
No, of season 1.
Of season 1. Okay.
A lot of people checked out just on the first 2 episodes of Andor season 1. I feel are like unforgivably slow and boring. And on a technical level, there's some very solid stuff done, but from a point of view of how engaging is it, does it draw you in to enjoy the characters and get you invested in the story? I think it executes those parts extremely badly in season 1 of Andor, and I think season 2 suffers from very similar things to a lesser extent, but it's still there.
I think season 1.
I agree with that.
The episode 1 opening to me, it was it made a good inciting incident. Like he killed these 2 guys. Now he has to go and run and try to cover it up because he killed these 2 Imperial officers. And then it got going for a little bit in the first episode of season 1, and then they ground the story to a halt so he could meet all of his treehouse best friends, which is like this girl, this other guy, this homeless dude, I guess, is who works in the yard. Like, I want to keep going with the story. I don't want to meet all these people. I want to keep going with this whole thing about him covering it up. I thought it was going to be like they're coming after him. It's probably in episode 2, but this needs to start happening in episode 1. Like this kind of the setup was there. There's no payoff, and it's like, okay, not everyone can be Game of Thrones. Okay,
this is interesting because like we got a commenter saying hard disagree. No, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
It's like everybody's roboting to me, so I figure I'm probably roboting.
Yeah. No, well, you're coming through clear.
Okay.
But this is I'm just highlighting this comment because it's a good example of Ash Ketchum says hard disagree. I was hooked from episode 1.
Yeah.
But
I want to speak on that.
Let me give that perspective because I loved Andor. I thought it was the best thing. But I think a huge reason why it's not doing well, kids don't like it. My kids didn't even like Rebel 1 or Rogue One.
It's too slow for them.
It's like they grew up on
interesting.
Dude, it's short attention span theater these days, right? You couldn't make a movie like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. You couldn't make these slow character driven movies, which I love. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Is like it's like that kind of. It's all about character, and if you don't have good character, then to me you don't have a story. But what makes all the money? These stupid frickin' Michael Bay movies.
Well, here is the thing, because again, this comment is talking about exactly the issue that I want to highlight. It was like, if you don't enjoy slow burns, good for you. That's your subjective opinion. You're allowed to have it, but it doesn't determine if it's good or bad. All right. This is where I think there is a disconnect. It's like it doesn't determine if it's good or bad. All right. There is a different metric that needs to be understood outside of consistency of writing, making it all logically, sound and everything like that. Look, this is an essential part of good writing, but it's not the only thing. It is also paying off or satisfying audience expectations. Now, I have an example, an analogy that I think demonstrates the issues at play here quite well. And it's my spaghetti bolognese analogy. And so this is the analogy. You go in to your restaurant and you are in the mood for spaghetti bolognese because you love spaghetti bolognese and you want that spaghetti bolognese. And so you order spaghetti bolognese, and instead they give you a perfectly made shepherd's pie.
I'd still eat the shepherd's pie. I love shepherd's pie.
Okay, well,
sorry, go on.
The reality is, if you were in the mood for spaghetti bolognese, you would be pissed that you got shepherd's pie instead. And here's the reality: shepherd's pie can be very good shepherd's pie, but shepherd's pie is very bad spaghetti bolognese. Okay, and these are the metrics that a lot of mainstream audiences are going to gauge it against. So,
did you like Rogue One?
I enjoyed Rogue One, yeah, but for different reasons than the quality necessarily. Like there are flaws.
I need to get something out. I need to. Okay, so in regards to just quickly the split in like the people that love the show and the people that don't like the show, I really feel like it's different levels of Star Wars knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, and I'm not taking away from the people that don't have as much knowledge not being Star Wars fans. I'm not saying that at all. But it's different levels of knowledge. So for me, there's things that in season 1 that I really don't like, and there's things in season 2 that I really don't like. I will say the good things that I will say about Andor is, yes, it looks good. It's shot really well, and the locations are actually quite good and nice, and the shots look fantastic. The dialogue and the writing is probably some of the best. There are a couple of things and a couple of characters I do take issue with, especially Bail Organa. But like those elements are pretty tight. And they're the ones that a lot of the people, and I've been watching a lot of Mauler and the EFAP crew and stuff, and they're praising the hell out of this stuff. But everything that they love about it is about the writing and the way that, and I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm actually saying that it's actually done quite well. The problem is as soon as you put it into the Star Wars universe, for me, it falls to pieces, right? Not only can they not keep it straight with their own canon in regards to stories they've already written in regards to like K2SO's backstory, but
yeah,
like
there was a comic that had that origin that they completely just ignored.
And they decanonized the EU so that they could have one consistent timeline, and they keep fucking that up. They did the same thing with the Ahsoka novel. They released the Ahsoka novel. This is canon, guys. Get this story. And then they go and retcon it in Tales of the Jedi and Clone Wars Season 7. It's like, what's the point? Are you going to refund those books because they're no longer canon anymore? Like, that's where I sort of start to
they still want to sell them.
Also, on the note of the dialogue, right? I think certain things in Andor is getting vastly more praise than it deserves when it is just average, competent, what you should expect from a story where something just makes sense. And then there's been praise to it and like there is some brilliant dialogue in Andor, which deserves to be praised. There is a line from I forget his name, but is the main, spy guy. That's it'll come to me later, I'm sure.
Cyril.
No, not Cyril. It's the guy who's leading Skarsgård. It's his character.
Oh,
where
Luthen.
Luthen, that's it. Thank you, Luthen. Where Andor asks him, what if the planet dies? Talking about the planet, and then his answer was, then it would burn very brightly. That's a good line. That's a great
there's definitely some decent lines and some decent speeches and all of that. Like the stuff that people are praising is actually not too bad, right? But like I take exception to a TIE fighter bouncing off the walls at the very opening scene and sliding across a cavern and going across the wall of a cavern and nothing fucking happening.
Right.
Like I take
exception to the entire TIE fighter arc in those first 3 episodes. It is,
and then we don't even get to see what he does with the TIE fighter.
It's completely. It's completely pointless. You could have cut that entirely, and the Andor show would be exactly the same. It is completely irrelevant to the larger plot that they waste all this time on when they could have spent more time on some really important stuff about Luthen's progression and how he is slowly starting to get uncovered and how they discover who Luthen is and everything like that. That is vastly more important story element stuff to include. They had, because this is where we get to some, what I feel is some more objective criticisms that you can actually have about this, and it's based on that analogy of spaghetti bolognese versus shepherd's pie and what the audience wants. And I think there is actually an argument that can be had about the quality of the prequel trilogy versus Andor. Now, from a writing perspective and consistency perspective, Andor is vastly superior in terms of the technical execution of some pretty important elements of storytelling. But it's not as enjoyable as the prequel trilogy for me. And I think that is also going to stand true for a heck of a lot of people. I had a more engaged, enjoyed viewing experience of the prequel trilogy than I did with Andor. And for me as a writer that wants to write something that people enjoy, I find that really important to try and understand and acknowledge. Okay. I want to write something that is technically sound, of course, really, really competent. But that is actually secondary to the greater goal of writing something that people enjoy and want to read and will be successful. And so it's a balance between the two. And so when I see something that is hugely popular, I am more intrigued about trying to figure out why is it so popular and beloved and enjoyed and successful, because I want to try and, mirror that success over and I still analyze the technical aspects of is it competently written or not, but that's the secondary consideration before what I think is the more important consideration. This is why I am so intrigued by Twilight, because it is so damn successful.
Oh, yeah, to bring it to that, huh?
No, you can criticize as much as you want, and there are criticisms to be had. But I am so intrigued as to why that was so successful and popular, because it was doing something that its core target audience really liked. But guess what? This is the same analysis should be applied to Andor, because if it is so good, why isn't it becoming, or being beloved as the prequel trilogy? The prequel trilogy did something vastly better than Andor to make it more beloved and enjoyed by this core Star Wars audience. There is an objective metric there that you should try and understand if you're wanting to try and understand.
I call BS, dude. Freaking until the sequels came out, the entire Star Wars audience, aside from the people who were just at that certain age group where that was their Star Wars, everybody who was older than that thought this prequel trilogy sucked.
No, that was hugely popular.
If and guess what, Mike was around before during the prequel trilogy, they would have been tearing that crap up left and right for years on end.
I'm not sure. Because guess what, Mike? Mike.
I'm 53 years old.
Why do kids who get shown the prequel trilogy now love it? I've shown my kids it. They love it, right? And they're not hooked on the nostalgia. In fact, Star Wars, I start them on the prequel trilogy and lead them through to the original trilogy.
Man, that's
they still love the prequel trilogy. Okay, there are aspects of the prequel trilogy that are genuinely and objectively very enjoyable, very entertaining, that people still latch onto. And I have a feeling the prequel trilogy is going to continue to be more enjoyed by future generations than Andor will be, even though Andor is a more technically superior executed kind of work on a writing thing. Is because there is another scale that needs to be considered and regarded that I think people can end up ignoring more.
Well, let me say this. Disney Lucasfilm has done this to the Star Wars fan base in regards to a lot of people asking the questions like why or how. So what I mean by that is in the sequel trilogy that they came out with, there was so many problems with it that as soon as you ask the question, oh, how did that happen? Or why, or how does that work? Or what is that? There were no answers, right? So now when I personally go into watching something like these, I feel like I'm constantly asking okay, let's see if it passes the how or why test. And as soon as I ask that question, I got no answers. Let me move away from Andor for 1 second. Tracking fobs in The Mandalorian. They were introduced as this tracking device that tracks bounties, which I completely hate because it completely removes the individuality of each bounty hunter and how they track bounties. All they need is a tracking fob pointed in the right direction and they've found their fucking bounty. How does the fob actually work? Disney Lucasfilm, you invented this thing called a tracking fob. Is it tracking DNA, which is ridiculous? I don't know. Yeah. Is it tracking a chip that's in the arm? If it is, then why not remove it out of Grogu or something like that, right? What is it actually physically tracking? No answers. No creativity, nothing. And there are no answers. And no matter how you fill the answer in with your headcanon, it falls to pieces.
And Nathan Cassidy just shared a comment that I think is that certainly helps my point. He says the Revenge of the Sith release has shown what Shad is talking about. In case you didn't know, Revenge of the Sith was re-released in cinemas and did really well. People still love the prequel trilogies. Yeah, they're still massively popular. And I do believe the prequel trilogy is more broadly appealing on an entertainment perspective, right? Enjoyable than Andor is. And I think the prequels are going to continue to go on to have longer lasting appeal than Andor will. Now,
Revenge of the Sith was the best of those.
If
Revenge
I can bring my point,
I love.
if
Well,
I can bring
enjoyed
my
it a lot.
point just quickly back to Andor for a second, the point that I was making in regards to the tracking fobs there for a sec, and asking like, how does it work? Like, you've created this technology, you've created this piece of lore in the Star Wars galaxy. How does it work? You can't even ask one question because no one has an answer, right? So I then bring that to the prison scene in season 1, right? Of Andor.
Right.
Okay, first of all, why don't you just program droids to build these things for the Death Star instead of actually imprisoning sentient beings, having to feed them, toilet them, bed them? All you need to do is program some droids and charge them. That's all you fucking need to do in the Star Wars galaxy. It's crazy. But then think about it even further for a second. The person that was supposed to be released from that prison but got moved to one of the other departments, right? And that's how this whole thing broke out in the first place, because everybody found out that this one guy that was supposed to get released got transferred to another cell, right? That's the first time in this entire time that that's happened. So they've released everybody else that passed their time, right? But these are the questions now that Disney Lucasfilm has made me have to ask. And as soon as no one can answer that question, like, okay, 5,000 prisoners got released from that prison. They all jumped into the water. They all swam to shore, except the only ones that we see make it to shore is Andor and his mate. So that means that everybody else either swam in that direction, completely away from where the other two swam, or they all just drowned and died.
We don't know. We don't get to find out what happened to them.
I'm sorry. These are the questions that I start to ask. As a Star Wars fan and in the Star Wars universe, there is so much more wrong.
Oh, there is.
Luthen's store. Sorry, I've been exploding. Luthen's store is full of Force-sensitive material on Coruscant. Do you really think that Vader and Palpatine can't sense the shit out of that fucking store? There's 2 holocrons. There's a Sith holocron and a Jedi holocron. There's a Jedi Temple Guard's helmet. There's Starkiller's armor. There's the tablets that Palpatine wants to get into the world between worlds that the wolves show to Ezra in Rebels and then to make them disappear. Somehow they just appear in Luthen's store, but the jangling keys aren't there, are they? They're not in this show, are they? Get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry, none of that makes any fucking sense other than, look, Star Wars reference.
Yeah. So, there are legitimate points of criticism that we're going to go into, and Rhino's already shared some interest. It's fired up. This is a comment that kind of also has something to respond to. So the prequels are more popular. But why is that important to Andor's quality? Because a metric of quality is its broader appeal and its likability. What are the technical, objective things that a show does to make something more enjoyable? And I think Andor fails at, 2 big things that makes it more broadly appealing.
Hang on, I'm just being corrected in the chat here saying that's not jangling keys, that's Easter eggs. Bullshit. A Jedi and a Sith holocron? A Jedi and a Sith holocron?
I didn't even know.
Not only that, let me just go back to the tablets that he's got. That's the fist, the hand, and the other hand or something. And it's from the Mortis Arc stuff, right? And it's from Rebels, and it's the access into the world between worlds. These tablets get revealed to Ezra by the wolves, and they are literally like teleported in front of him, and then the wolves make them disappear. It's like the wolves are the guardians of these tablets or some shit, right? They're not actually physically there. The only way that Sabine gets them is she scanned an image of them, right? And that's how they get into the world between worlds. So what? Did Luthen just go to those wolves and go, hey, wolves, show me those tablets, and then just shank them, kill those wolves, and takes the tablets to put in his store? That's jangling keys as far as I'm concerned, especially with when those episodes came out originally in season 1 and they were in there and everybody's like, oh, look, it's a Temple Guard helmet. Oh, my God, there's the access to the world between worlds tablets. Like, nobody asks how or why. And how does that make sense in the Star Wars galaxy?
Well, you need to know enough about Star Wars to even pick up on it.
That's why I'm saying there's different levels of knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because, like, you know, I know Mauler and those guys, they haven't watched Rebels, so they don't know that these tablets are literally just a background decoration of jangling keys in Luthen's store.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say that that's going to change their opinion of it, because that's got nothing to do with dialogue or you know, any of these elements.
Yeah, because
if we're going to criticize other things for the same kind of shit, why can't we criticize this for the same things? I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I agree with you on that. Is that those are things that I would call out and criticize if I was aware of the law, because continuity is important, and that's something that Disney just doesn't give a freaking crap about.
Oh, they don't.
But
Rhino, I'm not familiar. I've only read some of the books, but I've only ever heard of a Sith holocron. Is there Jedi holocrons?
Oh yeah, there's Jedi holocrons. Yep. So a Jedi holocron is usually like, they look like a square, and a Sith holocron is like the triangle.
Hey, Rhino, let's flash this.
Mate, you wouldn't let me talk about it on Flashcast, so I've come here, and Shad's going to let me rant and rave.
Rhino is unleashed.
I've been exploding because I didn't get to do my stream last week either. I had to change my day off with work. So I've actually like missed the stream where I would normally talk about like the final 3 episodes and, you know, the whole thing. I haven't had a chance to talk about it with anyone.
So he's finally the
Thanks,
power of unlocked. So I think what you said there, you have a point in terms of continuity and consistency. I don't think broader audiences are going to mind too much. And you get that as well. The thing that I think harms Andor a lot in its broader appeal are 2 big things.
But I hate being called a nitpicker because of that. I'm sorry, that's lore and canon and continuity.
Oh, yeah,
these are the things that I constantly talk about. Sorry.
Well, here is one. If you want to, I'll get to those 2 big things, but just because you brought up the nitpicking one, this is an example of where it's not nitpicking. This is like the fundamental big payoffs in Andor is reliant on some pretty contrived stuff. Here is a big one. And by the way, Mauler and the EFAP guys did acknowledge this one, which I appreciated. The fact that the Death Star was kept such a secret and was only revealed by this, mole in the, thing was like, no. The thousands to probably needed millions of people working on the Death Star during the many years of its being developed and stuff like that. It's a huge stretch to say that knowledge of the Death Star, the secret didn't get out. It's like, and the payoff in the last 3 episodes of Andor is reliant on that. It's like, this is the secret getting out. It was like, hang on. Not only does that not make sense from a technical level, it's contradicted in the broader Star Wars reality, because in Rogue One, the information that Luthen is like sacrificing his life for and the shows is reliant on its main payoff for this secret being so crucial. That secret is given off by a pilot that just defects from the Empire in Rogue One. Like, to me, that undermines the achievement that Luthen is getting, which is part of the emotional payoff in Andor to a massive extent, because everything Luthen achieves in his sacrifice is given away in Rogue One by the defecting pilot. Like it actually means all of what Andor, the show Andor is achieving, everything what Luthen is achieving is literally pointless and doesn't mean anything because it was given away anyway in Rogue One.
I think the show made Andor worse. I know there's people out there. Made Rogue One worse. I know there's people out there that are saying, "Oh, it made it so much better and everything." I don't know. I don't think so. I actually think that Andor is better than Rogue One. But then the way that it ties into it, it really doesn't fit.
There are some big problems, and I want people to pay attention because Rogue One establishes that the Death Star is such a massive project that you can't even keep the secret away from a delivery driver. That's what this pilot was. He's a cargo pilot who just knew, as a matter of fact, that this was a planet-killing weapon. right?
And you see all the Star Destroyers around the Death Star,
Yeah.
when, like at different stages of its construction, and TIE fighters, and like, you know, these are all
they're
people.
all seeing,
they're not just all ships and robots.
Exactly.
Like,
they're all seeing the Death
they're all
Star,
people.
right? And Rogue One establishes that even a cargo pilot found out what this was. This wasn't a secret that, you know, was so hidden that Luther needed a mole in the secret, what is it called? The ISB or something, ES or something like that, the Imperial Intelligence Agency or whatever, right?
The ISB.
It's that undermines the payoff of this story in a really big way. And you have to understand that is the massive payoff of the last 3 episodes of Andor. And if your story is literally founded on a plot hole and a contradiction, that ruins so much investment I have, not only in that story, but the emotional payoff, because it's not there anymore. Luthen's achievement literally means nothing because a defecting cargo pilot in Rogue One gives the same information, right?
Well, he got the initial information, but the problem with that is that when Andor goes to Mon Mothma and those guys with that initial information, they don't take it on board because it's come from Luthen. But then as soon as they get confirmation, they still don't do anything about it anyway. Obviously, that's how Rogue One is now created and invented. But like, it's just, they pushed, what am I saying? They pushed the story out, right? And dragged fucking Andor along. And then, like what Shad's saying, it really wasn't anything Luthen or Andor did that actually got them the information.
Yeah. And I'm glad Shad is pointing this out.
I guess it was what they tried to do. Go on.
The pilot did get the info from Galen Erso, right, in Rogue One. But that's my point. There are multiple points of this information getting out. Okay. And again, there was a cargo pilot delivering stuff to the Death Star. Okay.
I just think it doesn't match.
Like, he didn't really need to be told by Galen Erso that the Imperials are building something insanely massive that looks like a weapon, right? It doesn't need Galen Erso to figure it out. And there'd be hundreds of thousands of people aware of that stuff. And it doesn't discount the fact that defecting cargo pilot undermines everything that Luthen sacrificed himself for. And I find that a big flaw in its writing. If you wanted the payoff to actually mean something, you would have the information that Luthen is dying for to mean something. And you know what I reckon would have been perfect? Protecting the location of Yavin. That's what I think could have been the information that Luthen was willing to sacrifice himself for. And that would mean something. Not only would it mean something, it would answer a plot hole, because I find it kind of a stretch that in the same token that no one knew about the Death Star, Andor establishes that Yavin has been around for at least a year, if not 2 years, right? And there are heaps of people coming and going from Yavin. And I'm wondering, how the hell did the Empire not figure out where Yavin, the base, was, with that many people coming and going and with such lax security? And they could have utilized Luthen as being the main, asset that was protecting Yavin. Like, imagine if his mole in the ISB intercepted information that hinted at Yavin, and that's what caused Luthen to kill him and to try and bury that information, and he was willing to sacrifice himself for that, right? And so I feel there absolutely were ways to get the emotional payoff you wanted, but make it more valid and fit within the canon that they're working with and the story that they're already establishing in Rogue One. And that is an example of something that is an issue. This is not a small nitpick. The primary emotional payoff of the finale of the episode is founded on this thing. That's not a nitpick. These kind of points are important to point out and discuss. And it's not to undermine the things that I think Andor does really well. I think it has some great moments, like that moment where his assistant, I forget her name, kisses him goodbye, and the reveal is that she's there to kill Luthen, not save him. That's powerful.
Oh man, there's some definite there's some good stuff in here, that's for sure. And I'm like there's some good performances in there. And there's some good dialogue in there. And I'm not going to deny those things. But like, I mean, look, let's call a spade a spade. This is Disney Star Wars. This is Disney's canon. This all does lead to, like I've heard people saying, it leads to the sequel trilogy, all of that kind of thing. But like, if you were to take some of these ideas and put them into like, and actually get like good elements of the lore and canon right, it would be fine. Like for me, it's just I can't. Well, I've now separated the two. Like, and for me, like the way that the Death Star plans get given and all of that, it's a completely different story. And the funny thing is there are elements of those stories that they have ripped off as well, just like they do with everything. They decanonize the EU and then use what they can. Sorry, somebody was going to say something.
Oh yeah, like absolutely. But the thing is, though, right? I think the larger failing that causes Andor to struggle in terms of its broader appeal, right, is the main character, Andor. I don't think enough people actually are acknowledging how much of a bland character Andor is. He's mostly, I'm not saying he doesn't end up having conflict or, emotional kind of stakes in the story, but is not a charismatic character, is not hugely dynamic, and he even becomes a bit wishy-washy, like so much. I
can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to sort of defend him in a way.
Really?
Yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest challenges that the show has.
Well, I see it as the sort of the reason why he's sort of closed off a little bit is because that's actually the way he is. It's not that he's not necessarily feeling any emotion or anything. He is hiding it. He is definitely hiding all of that. And like, there's moments, I will say, in this where I do see it sort of come out. This is what I'm saying about the performances. I think actually a lot of the performances were really good. And I know that there's going to be people out there that watch my channel all the time that are going to hate me fucking, giving any credit to it. But I'd be dishonest, and, my own integrity, I won't allow that to happen if I said that there weren't some good things in this. It is the best out of all the shit that they've come out with. It is the best thing that they've.
I don't think Andor is a dynamic, engaging character that that you get hugely invested in. Like, imagine if they had a Han Solo level type of character to that level of charisma. And I'm not saying make a clone of Han Solo, but I'm giving it as an example that there are characters that are dynamic and more enjoyable to watch that really suck you in. Andor, I just didn't care much for him, honestly. I that, and that he's the main character of the show, the main character. And if that's going to be an issue, that's going to affect a lot of people's enjoyability of the show overall. When you have this boring main character who is not really that entertaining on screen and watching. Now, the stories that he gets involved in, some are interesting, some are utterly pointless, like the TIE fighter heist. That literally leads nowhere. And what it leads to is this retarded rock, paper, scissors match on Yavin. And the payoff of that entire thing was unbelievably pointless. The payoff was they're on Yavin. Is it Yavin 4 or Yavin 5?
Yavin 4.
I forget that. Yavin 4. They're on Yavin 4. And Rhino, to your point, that's jangling keys 100%. That is one of the most pathetic payoffs for a 3-episode arc I've ever seen. It's like, oh, it's the location. And it's not even that we get a payoff then. The payoff is just that, oh, look, it's the Yavin 4 pyramids. We don't get Andor returning to the rebels saying, hey, I was trapped on this planet, but in fact, it's off the Imperial radar. It has structures there that we could hide, military landing pads or anything. Nothing. We don't get anything about Andor reporting or how Yavin gets settled or anything like that. It's just a shot, a jangling key of Yavin that was built up by a 3-episode arc that is pointless to the larger story.
I do want to make a point about something that happens in season 1, but before I do, can we just quickly talk about the Force healer scene for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Because I've got an interesting theory in regards to this. Now, it was actually kind of funny. I do find it hilarious that Ryan, on one of the EFAPs, I think it was, or maybe it was on a Friday Night Tights. Anyway, I can't remember. But Ryan, on one of the shows that he's on, basically predicted that at the very last scene was going to be like Andor's baby, or Bix holding Andor's baby, or whatever.
Baby, And he did predict that, by the way.
He did. Man, out of nowhere, and I'm like, holy shit, he actually did pick it. But that force healing scene that happens, right? Bix goes back and says to Andor, like, she felt something, right? And all of this kind of thing. Now, everybody's asking, like, is Bix force sensitive and she just didn't know it? It was just sort of like, you know, a bit like Anakin, young Anakin using his reflexes. It was just sort of there and she just didn't know it. I've got a different theory. I think that the baby is force sensitive. And she sensed something through the child that was obviously inside her, and neither Andor or Bix is force sensitive, but their child will be.
I think it could be. I think Bix potentially could be, like, and because it doesn't need to be like she's particularly powerful, but it could be either. I think, either one is a possibility. The question is the baby a lead into something like, is that Poe, you know, Poe Dameron or something like that? Because Disney, they want this stuff to lead into the sequel trilogy, right? The trilogy that should not exist and is not canon at all.
I think I want this more to sink more into what they're doing now, like with Mandalorian and Grogu and stuff like that. I think they wanted to tie more into that. Obviously, they're going to try and use that to justify the sequels, but I still think that there's sort of like they want to find the justification for the sequels and then move on. That's what I think that they want to do.
Now, this is the thing, right? Bix having a child, right? I don't have too much of an issue with, and I think I understand why they did that from a writing perspective, because we all knew Andor was going to die in Rogue One. That is his ultimate fate. And so it's not like, you know, and look, that does actually undermine some of the investment of the story, because, you know, he's ultimately working towards his death. And it's a noble sacrifice there in Rogue One. I don't have an issue with that. But it feels like they chose to have him give him a child to kind of mitigate that sting that Andor is just going to be dying at the end, where he gets to leave something behind in the world that's a part of him still. And I appreciate that. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm okay with that. But okay, it doesn't undermine the actual issues of Andor as a character himself, as to how enjoyable or engaging or invested you can get in his overall story. And I think so many people have checked out on Rogue One because of Andor in those first episodes of the first season. If you didn't even get past the first season, you're not going to watch the second season, are you? And so that is a crippling issue with the show overall, if that's going to be one of the main things that turns people off, right? And I think that's one big reason. The other reason is a really interesting aspect to the storytelling craft, where for some people, they actually see this as a virtue in the show and they like it about it. But more broadly speaking, this is more broadly considered a negative in storytelling. And it's the concept of the info dump and world builder's disease. Okay. And so some people love this and they nerd out on it. And because an info dump can actually be done incredibly well and really, really good, and therefore engageable. Some of the best stories in the world actually start with crazy info dumps. Pride and Prejudice and a Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings actually has, like, Tolkien goes on to basically summarize The Hobbit in this one of the biggest kind of info dumps. Before you get a viewpoint character, it is like massive, right? And pretty darn dry as well. Because here's the thing. Some people can just get away with it. They can pull it off. But usually these are some of the best writers, you know, we've ever had. And then so many people have tried to emulate, you know, those moments. And I wouldn't even call them necessarily, you know, virtues. They were like, you know how like every rule exists to be broken, but you only break it when you know what you're doing and you care. Like, I would actually say those are examples of when those writers broke rules that they weren't even aware really kind of exist. And when other people tried to emulate it and failed at it, it has become more of an established rule in writing that you want to avoid info dumps. If you just, you know, divert the plot to just spew out a large bit of technical information or just a scene that is separate to the core story that people are invested in, it kicks people out of the story and they find it boring because they're not invested in it. And if someone isn't invested in this story you're presenting, the side story, it doesn't matter how well it's written, you're serving up shepherd's pie when they wanted spaghetti bolognese.
Oh, spag bowl.
Right? This is a very important thing that I find affects people's enjoyment of Andor. And the best example of this is not only the TIE Fighter arc, but I also think most of the wedding arc, even though the wedding arc did have a important payoff at the end, right? And even in the important arcs, there are moments where it slows down to almost a snail's pace and then gets diverted into a side bit of story that might be interesting from a world building kind of perspective where it fleshes out a lot of the world. Like I think the prison arc in Andor season 1 was like, that's actually probably an example of where they might have just pulled it off. Okay. Because you could cut that from the show or achieve the same thing that they want to achieve in that in a single episode, right? Or something else that's more integrated into the plot, because that's showing Andor how evil the Empire is and how, you know, you really want to get your payback to stop people suffering and stuff like that. But because it could be achieved in a much more efficient or quicker way, or way that's integrated, it felt, when it certainly starts, like a big distraction, a side kind of, and it reminded me of like the mistake that writers can do when you have characters, they're in a fantasy world, they're walking along a road and they pass a ruin and the narrative stops to give you a history of that ruin and the battles that took place and everything like that. Now, sometimes that can work, rarely, and in different mediums as well, that you're helped out in that. Like in literature, if you're writing a book, you have vastly more time to explore these things compared to a show that has limited, you know, time frame that's far smaller. Because like Wheel of Time does like broke the rule,
right?
Sorry, what?
Sing of Manetheren.
Sing of Manetheren. Wheel of Time does this, where it pauses and diverts into elements of world building, right? And sometimes it does it poorly. I will say sometimes it does it where it just takes too long to get over it. But it's a book; it has the time to go into that stuff. And then Robert Jordan was actually talented enough to pull it off really, really well. And I think the prison sequence was an example of where I would actually say I think they might have just pulled it off with that one, where the prison sequence got interestingly enough and dynamic enough that it became its own thing that you enjoyed. But there are other moments, like the wedding sequence.
Yeah, but the premise of the prison arc pisses me off. The fact that there's no droids and like the whole thing of how they all find out that the person got transferred instead of released, all of that stuff, it just does my head in because nobody asks the questions. They just like, oh, that's really good. It's a really good scene. It's really good stuff. It's like, okay, like you can think that if you really want to think that.
No, people can like it because
not being in Star Wars.
Well, yeah, but if people like the technical kind of world-building details and stuff like that, I can see that they can still enjoy the wedding sequence or the TIE Fighter thing, or the times where it slows down and it just does something this is the Star Wars world, right? For me, I was interested in the rebellion. And even though I was like Andor was a less interesting character, this is the promise that you're giving me, that it's his story about how, you know, he helps out with the rebellion. And then when you're feeding me several episodes of a wedding of them climbing up a mountain or going through a lengthy kind of wedding ceremony or having a fight with the daughter, when I know the daughter is meant to show what Mon Mothma is willing to sacrifice for the cause and stuff like that, they could have done that in an episode. They could have condensed so much. Right?
The show shouldn't have been called Andor, really.
Well,
it should have been called like, you know, I don't know.
Luthen. Luthen was the best character in the show.
Not a name of a character. It should have been like, you know, Rogue Rebels or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Birth of the Rebellion.
Eric, because you know there are like multiple characters in this story, Val and Cinta, and they're all the different rebels that it sort of all come together at the end, all of that sort of thing. Like, you know, it should have been called something else because you're now, you know, yes, Andor wasn't the center of his own show, which as soon as you change the name of it, it's like, well, it's not his show necessarily. He's just a part of this story.
The strongest payoff in the entire season 2 was with Luthen. Like Luthen became the strongest character, and I bet by far the best character in the show and most interesting one. And it seems like they latched onto that, where the main payoff emotional kind of thing is about Luthen, and Andor ends up being the messenger.
Perfect name would have been Rebel Moon.
Oh God, yeah. Well, like stole scenes from Rebel Moon. They stole a planet.
All right. So I want to finish off the point that I was describing here, that I think Andor suffers from, I guess you could call it scene info dump, or scene visual info dumping, and also world builder's disease, where it gets diverted and distracted into these scenes that I think can be praised on a technical level in terms of some elements of the story and like the detail of the wedding ceremonies was interesting world building, and stuff that was done well on a technical level, but I felt is such a distraction and irrelevant to larger plot, or could have been condensed and done better in a more tighter way, that I find them detriments to the quality of the show overall. Even though these things that I'm talking about right here could be the features that they particularly love, right? That they love the world building. These could be, and they're perfectly entitled to have that preference, but I'm appealing to the more general trends and standards of writing, where to a broader audience, those things are usually advised against. You're advised against info dumping, you're advised against world building. You can try and break those rules now and then, but bear in mind that if you do, oftentimes you're appealing to a much smaller audience, okay? And a larger audience, they're just not going to enjoy it. And I think that's one of the issues that Andor is facing with its broader appeal, that if Andor is so good, why don't people love it and praise it as the best Star Wars ever? Some people are, but not nearly everyone. Now, I do think you are absolutely on the money as well, Rhino, where I think Disney has done massive harm with the Star Wars brand, and Andor probably would have been better received if it came out when the fandom was more positive about it. I don't think Andor would ever have become, even in that scenario, more beloved than the prequels. All right? I think the prequels, there is something about the prequels that make them inherently more enjoyable and more broadly appealing. And that actually does have a relation to a type of quality that you can try and understand. Like, you should gauge, like, not all, because I believe that people can really enjoy really bad stuff. The Room is the best example, I think, of that, right? Where it's so bad, it's good. So I'm not saying I'm saying both of these things need to be considered. And in fact, broad appeal and enjoyment oftentimes, nearly every, is still based on how well written it is, how consistent it is with its setups and payoffs and everything like that. But it's not only focused on that. Its broader appeal and enjoyability is also based on a lot of other things: how dynamic and fun the character is, how much action and if is there proper investment in the action, is it remaining focused with the core story that it's promising and not getting distracted. And then you have the rule of cool, and Dev and I talked a little bit about this last live stream, where the rule of cool is an important part of making something enjoyable, but you don't want to go too far with it. You can appeal to the rule of cool and break logic and reality, and reason in it.
Good balance there. I just I don't my favorite example is John McFour, because I do like it a lot, but it's really cool. But there's a lot of things that happen in there that like that's a little too far. It's a little too over the top.
You know what I think is a perfect example of something that they thought was so cool, but it was just the most retarded thing ever. The Star Destroyers bursting out of the ground in Force Awakens.
Rise of Palpatine.
That was just
Rise of Palpatine. What? Yeah, Rise of Palpatine.
They thought about it for like 5 seconds. Like, this is cool.
Why it look so cool? Star Destroyers breaking out of the ground, and it looked visually impressive.
And then they don't know which way is up. They break out of the ground and they don't know which way is up.
But not only that, why the hell were they buried? What logical reason would you have for that? That doesn't make sense. It's so retarded beyond belief.
Does that mean there were even more Star Destroyers, but like some of them went down to the core or something? It is burned up in the middle.
It is an example of people doing something that they think is cool, but the reasoning behind it, from a logical sense of how it fits in the story, breaks logic to such an extent that it pulls you out. Okay? And so the rule of cool is something that you do want to use. You want your story to have the wow factor, the engagement, but you need to balance it with the consistency and logic. And the rule of cool works best when it is based upon something that makes logical, valid sense in the story. And then you get it really, the payoff
Well,
is valid and makes sense.
You want to know something that really breaks something for me from season 1 of Andor? Is the heist. You know the heist where they steal the credits from the Empire?
I don't remember the details, but I remember what you're talking about.
Okay, there is one very distinct detail that I do need you to remember, at least now, is that they stole 80 million credits. Okay? The figure is 80 million. So, let me just run through this really quickly. The reason why Andor was essentially put on this mission was because he was the only one that was able to pilot that ship. Okay? So he was the pilot for that mission, and they steal the 80 million credits successfully. They then go, because the boy gets crushed, throughout the series, they're reading his diary or whatever. It's almost like a narrator. But he gets crushed, and they land on a planet where this doctor tries to look after him, and Andor says to Val, I'm going to take my credits and I'm out of here. I'm done. See you later. So he takes his credits and he leaves. There's a couple of questions in regards to this. First of all, how did Val get the credits to Luthen, the 80 million of them, if she can't pilot the ship? And the reason why I asked that is because the next time we do see Val, she's on Coruscant, meeting up with Claire and saying, where's Luthen? But he's already got the credits. He's already basically got and spent the credits. Now, on top of that, this is where I really hate what they've done with Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma basically embezzled 400,000 credits, and that number is very important too. Embezzled 400,000 credits from herself to give to Luthen, and that's what she was in trouble for, hence why she ended up deciding to sell her daughter to that guy so to get her out of this jam of embezzling the 400,000 credits from herself. So my issue is, when Luthen gets his 80 million credits, wouldn't you think it would be a small gesture to say, hey, Mon Mothma, thanks for the 400,000 credit loan. Here's your 400,000 credits back. I've still got, 80 million fucking, blah, 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 blah. So here's your 400,000 credits back. But no, he's going to enforce her to have to sell her daughter so that she can make the money back. But then on top of that, she doesn't even exhaust every avenue. I'm sure if she had have just gone to Bail Organa, for example, and said, hey, Bail, can you help me get out of a jam? I need 400,000 credits.
Can you bail me out?
Sure, yeah, bail me out. Sure, no problem. But no, they just make her stupid and make her not want to sell her daughter off, but sells her daughter off anyway. Like, so dumb. It's such stupid storytelling, if you ask me, when it comes to Mon Mothma. Like, that's retarded. And the 80 million credits thing, okay.
Well, what you raised here,
80 million credits.
That's a great question, though. That's 80 million credits, right? That Luthen, supposedly has control over. What you raise is an example that falls into some of the other examples I've given, where if the logic does not justify the actions or events that is happening, I have a lot of trouble being invested or receive the emotional payoff in the play out of events, no matter how well it's kind of executed. If the foundation is based on something that is either dumb or makes no sense, it's kind of ruined for me. That's one of the reasons that really harmed Luthen's sacrifice for me, because ultimately it amounted to nothing because the information was already given.
It's about untraceable credits. I'm sure Bail Organa has a lot of fucking untraceable credits. The father of Leia. Like, you don't think that he's got some fucking...
Well, not only that, right?
Basically, Luthen, in this story, took Bail Organa's, place, right? In the rebellion.
And
I hate what they've done with Bail. And we talk about legacy characters, where you're not allowed to talk about how they have ruined Mon Mothma and how they did fucking do damage to Bail Organa, not only in this series, but also in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. They made him stupid as hell. But
sorry, that show, Obi-Wan Kenobi, holy crap, man.
The fact that he sends a transmission and says, we said that we weren't going to talk, but your silence worries me, even though we made the agreement that we weren't going to communicate. and then goes, I fear that you've been captured, so I'm going to go to Tatooine and look after the boy. So if he's being captured and this recording gets to the people that have caught him, he's just told him where he's going to do and what he's going to do.
Not only that, think about, like, this is where inconsistencies come in. Think about the loops that the show Andor shows that they have to go through to get secured, encoded, messaging between people, right? Where they go through all these things to keep those secret in Andor, where in Obi-Wan, Bail Organa is just flipping over a communicator saying, hey, bro, by the way, I'm inadvertently revealing the location of Luke Skywalker. Like, holy crap. There are issues with the connection of how this sits.
But I've got issues with Mon Mothma. And I can see you guys in the chat. I look.
Well, no,
you guys can have your opinion. I look at the Mon Mothma that was created throughout the real Star Wars lore and canon, Star Wars expanded universe, and all of that sort of stuff, and she's not the same character. And she would have exhausted every avenue before she used selling her daughter to hide her discretions. I'm sorry.
That thing that you
and
just
the relationship
about
between her and her daughter. I don't even understand that. Why does her daughter hate her so fucking much? Like,
it seems like she wasn't there and she's focused on the rebellion and not being a mother. But to your note about contradictions between characters, I think there's a bigger one in regards to Luthen, and I'll give an example in just a second. But to answer the question about, where did the 80 million people and say like it was how could you trace the money? They had a whole arc in Andor to explain it, where Mon Mothma set up a charity, a false front, purposely there to funnel money through to the rebellion, and so that basically establishes from my watching that she has control over moving large amounts of money now, which includes that 80,000, that 80 million amount that Luthen stole.
But you've got to understand something. There's a disconnect there because Luthen isn't a part of that same funneling of money.
Really? Because I would think if he can't funnel money and Mon Mothma
comes across his own separate enterprise.
Well,
and
I still
Luthen is effectively the one that creates the rebellion, which also I don't really like. But he is the one that effectively creates the rebellion.
They don't show that. They don't show where the rebellion gets their fleet or their ships. And I was hoping that they would show that. Going to character inconsistencies, and it goes into it goes into the problem that they got with the rule of cool, because Luthen's ship. You remember Luthen's ship in season 1? Like that ship. Swiss Army knife of ships. It can basically escape a Star Destroyer without too much difficulty with these hidden kind of gadgets and weapons on it. That like, I'm assuming people inspect ships when they come in and out of like Coruscant and other things like that. The way that Luthen showed his ability to hide weapons and have contingencies planned in place when he gets caught, by virtue of them showing him what he built with his ship and stuff like that, establishes a personality of the character. He's a planner, which that was pretty consistent with his character, that he had basically ways of escape set up ready when things got bad. That to me is something that's an importantly established character trait of Luthen that I feel they completely ignored in his arrest at the last 3 episodes of Andor, where you're telling me he doesn't have a dead man switch to destroy everything, to blow up his shop so, the Imperial people can't get a hold of that crucial radio, which, by the way, they do, and that's how they find out the location of Andor.
If they did that, then they wouldn't be able to do a zoomed-in shot of the tablets that are in Luthen's store. If he blew up the entire store, then they couldn't jangle the keys. I'm sorry.
But it's about being consistent with the character that you've established, but then working within that to achieve what they want. And what they wanted to achieve was a confrontation between Luthen and the Imperial officer lady, right? I think there were multiple ways you could have achieved that without basically ignoring some pretty established things that Luthen would logically do. I'm also annoyed with the Imperial officer, where in her mind, she has been hunting access for like how many years, right? He is one of the most dangerous terrorists that exists in the entire empire. And she's going to waltz in, not even drawing her weapon and giving him every chance to kill her. And then what we also find out, kill herself. I can go with the fact that she might not have like she is so selfish that she would never possibly perceive someone killing themselves to say for a cause or something like that. I think she's too intelligent to not realize that myself, but you know, there's enough logic there to push it that way. But the fact that she botches that arrest to such a retarded level, like I feel is a complete breaking moment, which because everything that happens in those 3 episodes is based on that arrest. And again, he is a terrorist. We actually know. Guess what? Luthen has a blaster on him. He has a blaster. He killed the guy in the previous scene in that episode, right? The informant. And so we know Luthen is armed. And as soon as she opens that case where it's revealed that she knows who he is because she shows the thing, what would Luthen do? By everything that they've established with Luthen in the show so far, he'll pull out the blaster and shoot her. And then you would expect that he would have a contingency, an escape hatch or something that would get him out of there. Even if the place is surrounded, they've shown that like he has built gadgets into the places, things he uses for escape. And I'm not saying, because narratively they want him to be captured and they want him to be injured and they want him to end up in the hospital. You could achieve that in multiple ways by being consistent with the character that they have and not basically depicting the characters losing reason and acting like retards. And Daedra, that's her name, coming in and the most dangerous terrorist in the Empire, she thinks, oh, he's definitely not going to be armed, which we know he's armed. He's definitely not going to shoot me or have a contingency plan or anything like that. No way would she ever, like, if she is a reasonable, intelligent person, I don't think her pride or hubris would ever overcome the fact that she has to make this arrest work. This is the guy she's hunted for years. He's the most dangerous terrorist in the world. She would be sending in a SWAT of armed Imperial officers and herself. And yeah, they could capture him. They would gloat. And then he would have contingencies, plans, any number of things. The way it plays out in the episode, like, is actually retarded. Okay. It's really, really, and they completely just ignore and throw out the window the way these characters would, the intelligence that they've established these characters so far, and the way that they would act in those situations, which really frustrates me because that is the inciting incident of some of the best episodes in Andor. And that's why it frustrates me more so. Those events would frustrate me more than any other thing in the show because it is undermining and ruining some of the best parts of the show. And therefore it annoys me even more. I was just seeing chat. I haven't seen Heat, so I don't know what they're talking about. Well, this is like, but Daedra thinks Axis Luthen is an arms dealer. Rebel provide that means she knows he's armed, and she walks in, not even drawing a blaster. And Luthen literally just could have shot her at multiple times. She doesn't have a weapon drawn. She turns her back to him. And not only that, like Daedra sees this dangerous man. And by the way, I think it goes beyond like an just a weapons dealer. I think at this point she knows this guy is a terrorist, right? He is the person behind terrorist attacks in multiple places throughout the Empire. And she even sees him holding a knife and she doesn't think, yeah, he might stab me with it or do something bad with that weapon. To me, like that scene was just, it breaks. So, like,
does he kill her? Does he kill her? He kill her?
No, he stabs himself in the stomach, which leaves him alive enough for Daedra to take him to a hospital. like he had a gun. He had a gun on him, and his purpose is to kill himself so he doesn't pass on any information. He's just going to draw the blaster and shot himself in the head, but he decides to stab himself in the gut, which is a wound that takes ages to like die from.
It kind of felt like he didn't want to die. Like he's like, okay, I tried. Look, it's like I tried to kill myself. See, I stabbed myself. But
they say in the chest, I'm saying there was vastly more places he could have stabbed himself to ensure a death. Forget the stab. He had a blaster on him that he could have offed himself instantly. That's what I mean, right?
It just really sounds like to me like he didn't really want to die, but he didn't want to go back on his word. So like, oh yeah, I stabbed myself, but she saved my life. You know, what we're gonna do.
right. And stuff like that annoys me the most because that's the very inciting incident foundation for the best kind of, moments that the show has. And when I'm seeing it, I'm just thinking, but it was caused by this moment of pure stupidity. And like that's where I'm at with that, I'm annoyed by it. Seems like people in the chat are agreeing with me there. Okay. And so there is, I feel, enough valid reason to justify people not liking Andor. Like, I think if you combine many of the things that undermine arcs and payoffs, the distractions, the slow nature of it, I think people are perfectly valid for loving it as well. But I think they're also judging it on completely different standards. And some people just, don't think it's Star Wars. They think it's devoid of what classic Star Wars is. And when you combine that with the I guess, disconnect people, the Star Wars fandom are just fed up with Disney and everything. That's making the show, I guess, well, is it a failure? Like, I think it's going to have longer legs, and its appeal might be more positive over a longer term.
Disney Star Wars as a whole is a failure. So that unfortunately, as much as people out there might like Andor, that does include Andor. There's nothing that Andor is going to do that's going to fix the Star Wars franchise. So, like, it is an unfortunate truth. As good as people might think that it is, and I'll argue the fact that it is the best of everything that they've done, but I still have a plethora of issues with it. If you
is there any main ones that you want to quickly vent about before we jump to super chats?
Well, not that I really haven't sort of already mentioned. I mean, I've got problems with what they do with some of the legacy characters, like your Bail Organas and your Mon Mothmas, but I think I've made that pretty well known. Like, if I'm curious, Shad, like, if you were to rate the 4 arcs from this season,
I would want to rewatch them to give a proper rating for my overall feelings for the entire show. Is
mine would go.
I'm between 3, I can't decide.
Arc 4, Arc 2, and Arc 1 is how mine goes for this season. But like, it's just, I must admit, I do hate like the disconnect in the fan base. Like, like I said, I feel like the criticism that I've given to Andor is on the same level as the criticism that I gave to The Acolyte, the same criticism I gave to Obi-Wan Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, all the animated shows that I've been watching, all of these things that I've been watching, I give this the same criticism, and I get told, oh, you just need lightsabers and Force users in your Star Wars, don't you? And it's like, hang on, have you actually heard my actual complaints? Like, I'm hearing what you're saying, and technically I'm agreeing with you. It is written well, and the character work is actually decent, and the way that it's performed by a lot of the actors is actually really good. The sets
Asgard was the acting is really impressive.
The images look good. I've got a problem with the Gormans. Apparently they're talking about the destruction of their planet, and their planet just seems to be the size of a big city. Like, I have problems with that.
Can I jump on that one? No. Like, they give the population of Gorman, and it's like, what, 400,000 or like barely even 1 million people? And that's like, that is not a large or difficult population to resettle with Star Wars technology. That's like nothing. This is like the thing.
I've seen people out there saying, oh, they only killed like 20 Gorman. Fuck you. Like, seriously, actually pay attention to what you're watching. I don't necessarily like the show, but I know that you guys that are saying stuff like that are fucking retarded. Like, let's be honest with it. I've got my problems with it, but the fact that I've got these problems with it to all the people that apparently think that this is some kind of masterpiece, I don't get it, because you guys would probably agree with my criticisms when I give a similar kind of criticisms to something like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, I think more charity is being given to Andor because people like it.
Because it's written better. Okay.
It is written better, yeah. Now, I do
understand these fucking criticisms just because...
I'm sorry. There's nothing in Andor as stupid as Obi-Wan Kenobi not being able to walk around the gate.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
But there is stupid stuff in Andor still that deserves its criticism, and that does affect its overall appeal. Now, I do get the charity side of things, where if something does something really good, it makes you more tolerable to the annoying, the retarded moments or the crap and everything, because the good moments are keeping you in, and they don't stand out as much. But if I'm watching through something I hate, those annoying moments, the moments of stupidity, stand out like a slap in the face, and it's hard to get past them. And so I do kind of get, the fact that, people are inclined to give more charity to something they're enjoying. I have to say, though, it doesn't undermine valid criticism, though. And I do think people have praised Andor in some moments when it's actually not praiseworthy. It was just, it's standard writing. It's nothing special there. And I think it's more of a comparison because we've had such slop for so long, even normal, adequate, competent writing, which is nothing special in reality, is getting praised more than it deserves. I think there's some of that happening with Andor as well.
If I can just share this, because I know the chat was sort of asking, or some people said that they didn't see this. So this is what I'm talking about. This is when, after they've captured Luthen. Oh, hang on. And they're just going through his store and detecting everything. Oh, I went too far forward. There. These things should not be in his store. And the people that saw that and then seal clapped and, jizz their pants because they saw the tablets from the rebels, these should not be here. Mm-hmm. Should not be here under any circumstances. And they are. So again, this is not a nitpick. This is lore, canon, and continuity within the Disney Star Wars canon. And
another one, just a thing that people might perceive as a nitpick, but it's actually quite important, goes back to the population of Gorman. Chat just confirmed it's 800,000. And that is hang on. They had to go through this whole elaborate thing to justify them, mining Gorman, right? And because they were afraid that if they just wiped out the populace or anything like that, they couldn't keep it under wraps. Yet they're able to, and they shouldn't be able to do this next part. The building of a giant moon-sized weapon that's taking millions of people probably working on it. They're able to keep that under wraps, but they wouldn't be able to keep under wraps resettling 800,000 people or just wiping it out. Of course, if they can keep the Death Star under wraps, they can wipe out 800,000 people on Gorman.
100%. And on that exact same premise, if, let's say, the Gormans are a population of 800,000 and that entire 800,000 is in that large-sized city on one side of the planet, why not just land all your fucking mining shit on the other side of the planet without anybody knowing, drill into it, let the planet be destroyed and just call it a natural disaster.
Yeah. They could lock off communication from Gorman, right? Just blockade it, bombard it from orbit, and say an asteroid hits, and then the problem solved. It's not a large population.
The way they did the story is well done, and it's sinister. And they went in with the intention of basically destroying the planet, with the intention of killing the Gormans if they absolutely had to. And the way that they set it up was well done. But considering that they could have literally landed on the other side of the planet without anybody knowing and fucking just done what they wanted to do and destroyed the planet anyway, it seems like, what was the point of all of this anyway then?
To answer chat, no, they did keep the Death Star under wraps for near the vast majority of its construction.
Till one BBY. One BBY.
Yeah, information.
And this is hang on. Actually, I haven't actually made this point too. You know what makes this a very clear distinction that this is different from George Lucas or actual Star Wars canon? Is them changing it from 1 BBY or 2 BBY or 10 BBY or 8 BBY or 25 BBY to BBY1, BBY2. It is a clear, to anybody that, dives deep into the lore and all of this kind of thing, it is a clear indicator that they didn't want to do it the same way that George did it. 1 BBY. They put the number behind the letters instead of in front of the letters, and that's a nitpick. I get it. That is a fucking nitpick, and I'll take it. But it's a clear distinction between the two canons.
Yeah, going back to the Gorman thing, right? People are saying it's a major location in Galactic Empire. People are watching. They needed the propaganda. Like, no, I think the Imperial Empire showed that they're willing to destroy entire planets, commit insane genocide, wiping out 800,000 people that seem to be located in just one or couple of cities. They could explain with propaganda of a meteorite hitting or something like that, massive reactor explosion, human accident or something like that. Easily, especially what they're showing that they're achieving in controlling information in the Empire that no one even knows about the Death Star being built until basically completion, right? They show that they can control the flow of information very easily. And these are not just nitpicks. These are important, like, world building elements that undermine large arcs in the story. Okay. And if a large arc, and especially a payoff that you're building for, like the Gorman Rebellion and everything like that, is founded on something that is illogical and dumb, it undermines the payoff overall, and kicks me out.
I know we want to get to some super chats, but as we keep going, I keep thinking of some more things. How do you feel about them using the word shit in Star Wars?
I don't like it. Yeah, I don't.
Well, let me say this: they did it in season 1, twice in season 1. Actually, there was the soldier on, I think it was Ferrix. That when Andor escapes and everything, he turns around in the middle of the street and goes shit. And then you've got Bail Organa saying tear the shit out of this place or whatever he says. Like, I know it's just words, but I don't like it. It does immediately took me out, like especially the scene with Bail. But I guess you could say the same argument for the whole grape discussion, couldn't you?
Because a lot of times in sci-fi, they do come up with their own terminology. Like a lot of times,
I didn't think they needed to come up with a different word for rape, let's say, in that scene. I just think that she just needed to change it to he tried to attack me or something like that.
He attacked me. Yeah,
it's
attacked
easy
me
to
would have been
explain for the younger viewers, but from the parents, from that aspect. And it's not to downplay what the guy was trying to do. It's just a little bit of subtlety can go a long way. We all understand what happened.
The word is poodoo.
Yeah, he tried to.
I mean, Star Wars used to have like, you're a Nerf herder and something like that.
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah. Like,
actually, Star Wars used to have like really colorful, creative insults to each other. Now it's like, I only understand what I know on Twitter, so I use this normal curse words. Like shit.
Yeah, I had that same reaction when Will Scarlet swore in Robin Hood.
I really kind of just feel like these writers who they weren't allowed to curse when they were kids, and their dad said no. So now that they're all grown up, and they get to put curse words in Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, Han Solo does say, "I'll see you in hell" in Empire and stuff like that.
Well, that
like,
means his religion.
Yeah.
Hell is a little bit in that direction, but not as far as like modern day cursing.
Christianity is canon in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I was actually rereading Revenge of the Sith, and near the beginning, I wish I could pinpoint it so I could show you, but near the beginning, in the first couple of chapters, Obi-Wan says something to Anakin, and it's a bit like a bit of a play on words, like a bit of a cliche saying in the Star Wars galaxy. And it sort of just fits. It just rolls off the tongue and it sort of just fit. And you understand based on real world how you would say something like that in the real world here, what he is saying. So, like, there is a way to do it where you don't need to actually put.
I don't think anyone here is arguing that you can't have mature, dark things happen in Star
100%.
Wars. Nothing close to that. Well, the whole grape comment felt like it was forced in because you could have used something else just to try and drum up kind of like, a bit of controversy and attention when it was.
They had all the articles ready to go, so it makes me even more suspicious.
Yeah, when. It felt like, they were trying to jump on that and push it far more when he didn't even reach that point in the scene. He's just trying to, he
wants to get in.
I know. He was trying to assault her. That's clear, but he doesn't get very far. She knocks him over the head with it.
It was an Imperial guy, right? Imperial guy doing the assault. I mean, it would be really bold and really unexpected if they did the other way around. If they captured like a female Imperial soldier and a rebel tried to assault her. So that would be a little more like, we wouldn't expect that.
sorry, for me, the second one was completely unnecessary because, okay, in season 1, she was tortured. It was never implied that she was raped in season 1, but they implied it at the beginning of season 2 in the dream sequence that she was, right? In season 1. They didn't really need to, you know, show it again. It's like nearly every Imperial dude that she comes across wants in, like every single one. What do you reckon? Palpatine did that to her, and she's hang on. I've got a theory.
Okay.
Palpatine raped her. She's pro-life, so she kept the baby, and that's Rey's father.
I've heard people say it could be Rey's child, but I don't think the timeline matches up to be able to.
No, if it's Rey's father, then he'd be about 30 when she is born. That's about right.
You mean
he'd be 20s. He'd be in his 20s.
That's right.
When Rey comes around.
Yeah, Rey wasn't the daughter of Palpatine. She was the daughter of the son of
Palpatine. So, okay, that's the new
I
theory, chat. Palpatine raped her. She's pro-life, so she didn't want to.
Hang on. Is Rey's Palpatine's daughter or the daughter?
Palpatine's son with Bix is Rey's father.
I wouldn't put anything past Disney at this point. Who knows, right? But hey, let's wrap up the super chats. Man, I'm glad we were able to have this discussion because this has been on my mind for a bit, and I think it's been on your mind too, Ryder.
Oh yeah.
But some of the chat have some comments to share. So Wolfsbane for $5 says R2 is the closest to human because he never got his memory erased like other droids. By the way, the Empire was human supremacists in the EU because they were majority. Yeah, I've heard things like that. Right. In terms of the original trilogy, it's clear that there was issues against droids more than there were against other races.
Palpatine's very racist against anything other than human. Like he hates aliens, hates them.
Makes sense. Boog for 20MX says, one vision of the future over Committee of Mediocrity. Thank you for sharing that, Boog. I don't know the connection because we're too divorced.
Well, he's just saying one vision of the future. This is how I see that. One vision of the future is better than a committee, basically, of, you know,
mediocrity.
Like, well, you've got a committee of people trying to put stories together. Let's say, as opposed to one person's vision. You know, the problem is
not future. It says failure. Man, I'm a retard. Sorry, one vision of failure over a committee of mediocrity. Wolfsbane for $5 says, although Palpatine and Vader weren't really human supremacists, as long as you were useful to the Empire, more like the military bureaucrats, i.e.
That's true. That's why Thrawn was the exception to the rule.
Yep. Dragon Dracage $5 says, hey Shad, sorry I haven't watched you as much of your vids here as past years, been paying more attention to the politics here in the States. Well, yeah, politics is very distracting. I understand that completely, but good to see you again there, mate. Judah for $5 says, hold up, go back, please. You don't even have the right to vote or not. How is that law allowed to pass? Well, it's mandatory, but you'll get a fine if you don't. You don't get like thrown in prison. But that's what it's like here.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, well said. Yarmoth for $20 says, Shad, number one, my problem with any of the new Star Wars media, including the sequel trilogy, is that they all feel like fan flicks, even amateurish. The stories look like they come from Reddit. And two, the Outdoor Boys retired. I wanted to talk about that, but we don't have time. Yes, I love the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. I was subscribed, watched him for a bit. He's also a member of my same faith, actually. So he's a good bloke. And he has decided to retire, but for, honestly, some really wholesome reasons. He's just like, the fame was getting too much for his family to live a normal life. And he already kind of won the game. He probably has more money to retire than many. And so I was like, yeah, I'm stepping back for the time being. He might come back, but he's taking a break. So he'll be missed. Mario Trujillo for $10 says, I worked in food service for 15 years. Stereotypes are real. Also, people are sometimes just outright stupid. The internet is just showing what I've seen firsthand for the last 15 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I think it's also exasperating and accelerating certain things as well. I think people might be becoming dumber because they're letting other people do too much thinking for them, parasocial kind of relationships, and they just get on board and agree. And like, we see that with some of these crazy communities where these certain creators, these actual awful people, will outright lie about other people on the internet, and the community just eats it up, and that's gospel to them. And that person, they've never interacted with that person before, but based on the single kind of judgment of usually bad faith actors, they are willing to attack and do horrible, evil, vile things against this person. It's crazy. And yeah, we talked a bit about that. Wolf Spain for $2 says, Shad, opera music used to be the pop music. Yes, but would it have been the pop music if modern day pop music was around at the same time? That's the question. Okay.
No, they would have burned the pop musicians.
If it was allowed to compete in a free market, I think pop music would still prove to have broader appeal even back then. Because there are inherent things that humans, they're attracted to symmetry, they're attracted to beat, they're attracted to things that kind of catch, the earworm stuff. These are like almost biological things. Like the fact that we can get a tune, a melody that's catchy stuck in our head that we can't get out. That's like, what is wrong with the human brain that happens? Isn't that annoying?
I know.
But it goes to show you that there is something biological in regard to our appreciation of certain melodies and tunes. And pop music and stuff is when we've started to latch on and understand that more. I'm not saying there isn't great opera music, but I think there is a reason why one has broader appeal. Yes.
Lack of culture. Hey, with that, I got to get going.
Okay, Mike. Good to have you on board.
See you guys.
Man, that image looked awesome. Seeing you do that was so cool.
Almost got to finish the face.
It was so cool watching you do it.
Oh, thank you. And I was gonna record it and do a process video on my channel, but I looked over after I had finished coloring it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I paused the recording.
Oh no! I hate that.
All right,
well, Mike.
Rhino, good to. I don't know if we've met before, but
I don't think so. Yeah,
good to
meet
you. This is not my face, but All
right.
No. See you guys later.
Later, dude.
Boog for 20 MX says, it's proven classical music drives away urban youths. And
Darth Vader AI.
I say this as someone who loves classical music, but I can acknowledge that it doesn't get stuck in my head nearly as much as like modern day music that's literally engineered to catch your kind
of. That's what makes apparently Ye a genius, according to Ye. So.
And Boog also adds, dude, Boog, thank you for all these great super chats. Says for MX50 says, don't be ashamed to be an elitist about your fandom. That's how you gatekeep the tourists. If they want to be part of the fandom, they will appreciate it. There is some actual valid and important truth.
Well, it's funny. It's a funny thing. Like, I always knew about the EU. I didn't start reading the EU until Disney actually fucked everything, because I was hoping that they were actually going to do it properly. But I used to like the Clone Wars, and after talking with Ryan and Lethal Lightning about the Clone Wars, my perspective changed on it. And, it's kind of like they did destroy my enjoyment of it. They did. But I now know why those things are actually bad. You know what I mean? It's like I took that on board. I didn't just go, hey, fuck you for destroying my enjoyment of this fucking thing, or just let me enjoy it. They gave me the information, the lore behind it, the canon, the continuity of it, whatever the case may be, completely changed my perspective on it.
Yamoth for $5 says, the reason people love the prequels is because it feels like Star Wars. Again, all of new Star Wars feels like it was a fan film or YouTube. And the question is, why does it feel like Star Wars? That's the key right then. Okay, there's something objective about that, and it's fun. It's got fun lightsaber fights. It's got the Force. It's got and lightsaber fights. You can have good Star Wars without lightsaber fights. I think something that people kind of miss is the dogfighting kind of aspect of Star Wars, the X-Wing, because that's A New Hope is more of a, space battle movie over a Jedi movie. And that's part of Star Wars too. Like, Star Wars is about Star Wars, right? It's literally the concept is about battle and conflict. And it does set a feeling.
that's one of the amazing things about what George Lucas was able to do, is he was actually able to make basically this story, basically make Star Wars for everyone. But as soon as like you want to dive deep into the elements of Star Wars, everything really does kind of make sense. Now, I'm not going to say everything, because there are some hiccups along the way and there are some problems. There are some continuity issues with the prequels. I'll even say that. But like the main story and everything was pretty grounded, but he was actually able to make it for hardcore fans as well as the normies. And that's where, like I'm saying, with like a lot of the TV shows that Disney's come out with, as soon as you ask that single question, it just falls, the house of cards falls down, right? And that never used to be the case with George Lucas' Star Wars. That never used to be the case with the expanded universe. And like I said, not all the time. There were the hiccups along the way, but more often than not, it was pretty consistent.
Yeah, but there are absolutely points of criticism that many people have spoken about, and even we've raised at times in the past as well. And so we try to be as consistent as we can. I still hate Jar Jar Binks. I've never liked Jar Jar Binks, and there are a lot of issues around that. But the prequels overall, my viewing experience, they're just really enjoyable. They're fun, okay? And I'm really interested in writers like, what makes it fun? What are people enjoying about this? Okay, and there's something important there to latch onto in terms of if you are gauging something to be good or bad. All right, if you're able to make the goal is to never do anything poorly written on a technical level. But if someone writes something that is technically poorly written but hugely enjoyable and has broader appeal, there is another thing that they've done, right, that is technically of quality, technically good, right? And it's separate from the nuts and bolts of like, if you're looking at writing, it's the prose, pace, and stuff like that. But then there's like broader aspects about the likability, the enjoyment, how entertaining it is. And if you can succeed at that, even if you might fail at some of these more technical aspects, I think you might be moving towards achieving a superior story. Because the purpose of a fictional story, and for most, but I know there's ones that aren't, but for the most part, is to be an enjoyable story, to entertain. That's the primary goal. And if you can achieve that, and yes, good writing is essential, but people can sometimes still achieve something really enjoyable, even if it's got technically bad writing, because also on the other side has technically superior, I guess, things that people like. And I that's the part that I find deeply intriguing.
You brought up, I gotta say this, you brought up Jar Jar Binks. Like, fuck Jar Jar Binks, man. Like, he not even for how silly he was. None of the downfall of the Republic, the downfall of Anakin is all on him. He was the one that gave the Chancellor the emergency powers, fucking created the downfall of it all. It's all on him. He's Jar a fucking idiot. Fault. It's all your fault, Jar Jar, you piece of shit. Fuck you. I don't care about you stepping in poodoo and all that shit. Like, fuck
this is kind of the fault of the other representatives for giving him
as well.
Yeah,
still Jar Jar,
maybe, but it's still Jar Jar that made that.
He was directly manipulated by Palpatine. Like,
yeah, he was.
I really do feel like he was kind of a DEI hire. Like, okay, well, everyone vote for Jar Jar because he's retarded and we gotta give him a win.
Well, DEI policies brought the fall of the Republic.
That's played by a black man. Thought? How's that?
Who would have thought?
Played by a black man.
Yellow Flash for 999 says Star Wars. Bleh. Yeah. Good to see you, Flash.
It is gross.
Michael, Dave, I always have trouble with your last name.
I'm horrible.
The $20 says, I think the hatred towards Andor isn't unusual. You have part of the fan base who feel it's some of the best Star Wars content ever, myself included, may genuinely perplex why everyone doesn't agree. They preach to everyone else. I don't think it's particularly unusual. And I actually see some valid reasons why people don't like it. For me, I found it watchable, which is very middle of the road with things that really annoyed me. If I was to give my overall rating, this is difficult because technical, like if I was to gauge the technical quality of the writing itself, might be on 8 out of 10 territory. But then if I was to balance against the flaws that we've talked about this entire stream, the flaws about being distracted with world-building thing, its overall appeal and stuff, I'll give it a 5. Yeah, I'll give it like in terms of how broadly and how technically does it execute a story that people will enjoy, the largest Star Wars community enjoy.
This is the funny thing about this super chat is like, I don't like Andor. I don't think it fits in Star Wars very well at all. It might fit. It fits definitely better in Disney's canon than it is in, like, to me, real Star Wars canon. But I don't find it perplexing to see why the other side like it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, neither do I.
So why is it? But my question is then, why is it so perplexing to see somebody like me that goes, okay, these are my problems with it, which I've pretty much, I feel like I've laid out pretty well throughout this stream. Those are my issues with it. Are they not valid? Are they not valid because it's written better? Are they not valid because the characters can act well? Are they not better because maybe the story does have some good through lines and some connection? Okay, cool. I've acknowledged that the writing is done pretty well in this. My problem is as soon as you put it into the Star Wars galaxy, and this is the funny thing with Andor is, and actually it's kind of a couple of other shows too, but with Andor specifically, is it doesn't just break things from George's canon, which essentially they have said that they've decanonized so they can sort of do what they want, but they have done problems in regards to that. But they've also retconned their own canon throughout this.
This comment is, I think, brilliant. It's the gaslighting. Oh, you aren't smart enough to watch Andor. You want explosions. Has gotten old. 100%.
I hate that. I hate
that too. Like,
I hate it because that means straight away that means that you haven't heard anything that I've said.
Yeah.
Because I haven't mentioned lightsabers or force users once in my arguments of why I don't like it.
We got hit with that during the Last Jedi debacle, where it's like everyone argued and they said that we just didn't like Last Jedi because there wasn't enough like Star Wars stuff. We wanted more explosions and lightsaber battles, and that's why we didn't like it. It wasn't because of any real actual reasons or how it just raped the Star Wars legacy. It was because there wasn't enough Star Wars stuff in it.
And I think many of the things we've brought up throughout the stream are absolutely valid. I can understand why people would dislike it, and I wouldn't begrudge them that. I'm right in the middle with strong annoyances, and overall, I don't think I'm ever going to watch it again. And that's I think if anything is a greater like indictment of the issues with Andor. It's that.
Well, this is the thing. If let's say I come up with an argument and the argument is valid, and the person sits there and goes, "Well, it's still a good show." Can you at least acknowledge that there's a problem there? And I'm fine with you enjoying it if that's really what you want to do, right? But can you not acknowledge the fact that there is that issue there, or at least you can see my point of view? Because it seems like nobody can see the point of view of somebody that's actually doesn't like this stuff.
Yeah. Michael has a comment where I think it is fair to say is they are valid criticisms. It's the impression that Andor is being put on the same level with Disney's other shows. And
it is Disney Star Wars.
It is Disney Star
Wars.
But I'm not saying it's on the level of Obi-Wan by any means. I think
no way.
No, not even close. And I've said multiple times this is probably the best thing Disney Star Wars has made. But it doesn't invalidate criticisms or reasons why people dislike it. And as we've mentioned again, and so Michael has another super chat for $20. Says, "Here's the bottom line for me: you spent every single week of Ahsoka and Acolyte clowning them on FNT. Would you rather have that or something that's much more competent and an earnest attempt to do something new in Star Wars?" Well, what I would like is something even better than Andor. I would like something of the original trilogy quality. Now, I have been more negative overall at Andor because I guess. Either I'm ambivalent to it, but my annoyance has tipped me over to not liking. And the fact that I don't think I'll ever see myself watching it again, I think is a big sign that there are issues with this show where I'm going to go back and watch the prequels into the future quite a lot. And so there are points to criticize because I want good Star Wars of the quality of the original trilogy. And I don't necessarily, I don't want more Star Wars like Andor. I want more Star Wars like what?
Well, my thing is more so the whole event of Star Wars. What Star Wars used to be, it's not even close to that anymore. It's not a cinematic fucking thing anymore. It's just these TV shows. And I think we've both argued the fact that yes, this, and you don't even have to say probably the best. It's the best Disney. It's the best Disney Star Wars they've done. Yeah. It is.
But I will say
that I've got issues with it.
Yeah,
I've got some major issues with it, and some of them have to do with the legacy characters that they did decide to bring into it.
Yeah, and something that annoys me is I wanted to see how the rebellion was
the same
formed.
argument as what they did to Luke Skywalker. Yeah. To me, it's the same argument as what they did to Luke Skywalker with Bail Organa. I'm going to isolate Bail Organa in this conversation. Everything that we've seen Disney Star Wars do with Bail Organa, whether it be in this show or in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, is at the same level of destruction of intelligence of the character, you know, where he is in the universe, our understanding of where he is in the universe, all of that sort of thing is completely destroyed with everything that Disney Star Wars has done, despite what you think about how well the show is written or the dialogue that it's just... it's the same argument. It's the same argument, but because this is the problem. Because it's written well, because it's shot well, it looks good. We can see where they spent the money. Yeah, cool. Like, you know, the characters, they've got some character. You know, the incidents that happen, there are some payoffs. There is some good there. Okay. They did the same thing to Bail Organa that they did to Luke Skywalker in this show.
It sounded like you really wanted spaghetti bolognese, but they gave you a competent shepherd's pie instead, and it's not what you wanted, damn it. And that's kind of the point that, you know, I've been saying throughout. Like I wanted something different out of a show that explored the birth of the rebellion. I wanted to see how they got their fleet. I wanted to see how they get their...
The fact that Bail Organa, I'm sorry, I just fucking... the fact that Bail Organa had somebody infiltrate his team that was going to get Mon Mothma out pisses me off. That fucking pisses me off.
And look, that did Bail dirty.
That's not a good thing because it allowed Andor to get her out. It allowed Luthen's plan to come to fruition. That is not a good fucking thing.
Well, Bail Organa doesn't come off out of Andor looking like he was that important or competent in the birth of the rebellion, which does that character pretty darn dirty, right? Disproves in the chat. Disproves comes. No one was intelligent enough to appreciate Willow or She-Hulk.
that bit of Bail Organa is a destruction of the character of Bail Organa, as far as I'm concerned. It's another piece off his little notch of how Disney destroy characters piece by piece.
And it's like seems like they continue kind of disrespect to something that you really appreciate and love. Yeah, I can absolutely see that that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Even if it's in a competently written show, it's got that stuff that just, you know, sets a fan off. And I get that. Like there are things in this show that piss me off more than perhaps they should, because I think they contradict things that were based on it that were really good. And it's like going back to the super chat, what do I want out of Star Wars? I actually didn't want something like Andor. They're serving me up something that is a competent shepherd's pie when I wanted spaghetti bolognese, and I wanted they explore things that I felt were completely irrelevant and pointless to the story of the birth of the rebellion, even focusing on Andor.
It's amazing how Disney Star Wars can competently write their own character of Luthen. But when it comes to the legacy character of Bail fucking Organa, they have to write him fucking retarded. It pisses me off.
Yeah. Taker 610 for $5 says, I thought the big reveal of the Empire's officials and Vader himself were covering for Palpatine's mental decline was very relevant commentary. They were covering for Palpatine's mental decline? You need to point out where that happens, because I can't think of the specifics on that one.
Palpatine is Biden?
Maybe I'm missing a meme or something. Judah for $2 says, current population of New York City, almost 8 million. Bear that in mind. And the population of Gorham, whatever that was, 800,000. We're talking like a tiny population in the larger scheme of things, especially on the scale of Star Wars.
So the population of the planet would fit in that city. Is that
probably. Like, yeah, and it raises a lot of questions, which really undermine the payoff and the entire plan that the Empire needs to do. It's like, why would you make that dumb mistake by making the population so small? These are things that annoy me.
I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem if that's how they want to do it, but it does make me wonder why the Empire didn't just go to the other side of the planet.
Yeah,
like maybe the veins, maybe the city. I don't know. Maybe they actually even mentioned this. Maybe the city is over the main mining spot that they need to mine.
Well, they didn't mention that, but and I know Gorham is really popular. Everyone's getting their things. Like the Empire with its intelligence network could have easily just nuked it from orbit.
Well, I guess it wouldn't just be under the city because it was going to destroy the entire planet.
Yeah, the entire planet. They had to strip the entire planet. Neo for $2 says The Witcher used plowed instead of effed in terms of what languages they do. Yeah, like in my own book, I'm actually using the original medieval word that meant the same thing as the F word, but the medieval word is called sard. To get sard by something or to sard something is to F something. That's the actual medieval equivalent, and I'm using that in my book.
Yeah. It's like using the word wizard. I don't like it the way that it gets used.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, in Star Wars, they use the word wizard as like, you know, cool.
Boog says, did you watch the Religious Bible Black anime? No, Boog. No, I have not. And I do not intend to watch that anime either. Arch informed me about that anime. And it's
not an actual religious anime.
Yeah, I don't think it's as religious as you're saying there, Boog. Boog again for MX50 says, AI Darth Vader said, one single vision of failure, George, is better than a committee of mediocrity, Disney, when asked about the sequels. Google it. There we go. That's what Boog was mentioning. Oh, well, interesting. Darth Vader coming in with some facts right there. Galstrom for $5 says, why is it that Star Wars can't be the high adventure on one side and the dark grit on the other and both feel like Star Wars? I don't understand it. Why can't it? I think it's mostly about execution, but this is the thing. You have a built-in fan base, built-in audience that are wanting a very specific thing. And when you change something and give them something that they don't want, there's going to be backlash. I'm not saying it can't succeed. If it's just that good, it can. I don't think Andor necessarily does it. Maybe I'll be wrong with its longer appeal. I'm interested to see what the fandom will think of it in 10 years and if it's still being watched. My prediction is that it's not going to be as beloved as even the prequels. I think we will see. We will see. Because I think, like, if Andor did actual justice to like the pre-existing characters, Bail Organa, it stopped like it wasn't as slow. It had a more interesting character than Andor, engaging stuff like that. I think Andor could have really perhaps achieved that, like a more serious, gritty kind of Star Wars. Because I think if something is genuinely good enough, it can do that. I don't think Andor itself achieves that, but the proof will be how will it be received in the long run. Okay, because I don't mind a dark or grittier kind of, you know, depiction of Star Wars. I think there's some, don't go Game of Thrones. Star Wars, like at its core, is a hopeful, uplifting thing. And here's the thing. I actually don't like, this is a subjective thing, but I don't like how morally gray both Andor and Luthen were. I think Luthen straight up murdered that guy at the beginning of the, what was it? Episode, as the first of the last three. So whatever that one is, right? Yeah, episode 10.
Yeah.
Straight up murdered that guy. That makes me really dislike him. I kind of like.
Oh no!
Very well written.
No. I got to push back a little bit on that. There's some decent stuff in there with the way the characters act and what they do and the purpose of what they're actually doing. I understand what you're saying. You don't really want this rebellion, what you know to be this rebellion, to be quite on the shady side of.
Let me explain why. Like the rebellion
the way that they've done it, it's not the same rebellion. The rebellion that you want to be, that, you know, good, you know,
guys, hopeful,
the morally
on
good,
the light
you
side
know,
of the
all of
Force,
that sort of thing, starts at Luthen's death. Is basically the indication of what that is. And yes, it may have been formed on some blood. It may have been formed on some darkness, but. Like, I'm gonna there is some decent stuff in the Andor show.
Well,
like
well
episode
written,
8,
well
the way that they were able to build tension and everything in episode 8, I thought was really well done. And what
Disparu comes in. The rebellion was always evil. The Empire did nothing wrong. Like,
I don't know.
One of the themes of A New Hope, like and Star Wars, is the idea of good versus evil in a pure, more wholesome sense. That's why, to me, original Star Wars has a kind of similarity to Lord of the Rings in the sense that it has this virtue underlining it, right? That Luke, he felt Darth Vader, a genocidal maniac, could be redeemed. Okay, that is some true like heroism, wholesomeness that, to me, feels very Star Wars. And when you have Star Wars depicting not only morally characters doing actual evil things to achieve what they think is a greater good, that to me doesn't feel like actual Star Wars. It's subjective.
Yeah, gray morality kind of feels more like
I'm
getting
a thriller, a little annoyed with
thriller, not really Star Wars. Star Wars is good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree, and that's like to the fans out there that have their headcanon that there is gray Jedi, and to achieve balance is to become like essentially a gray Jedi. That is ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
I hate
there is, and I think maybe with what they're doing with this and having that gray area, maybe they're more leaning towards that. Hey, just because you did something wrong, you did it for good, though.
I don't like that. To me, like the rebellion won because the light side of the Force, which is basically the manifestation of the God of this world, right, was on the side of the good guys. Their own virtue enabled the Force to go out of its way to help them. And the dark side of the Force is an aberration. It is something unnatural. Balance in the Force is when the light side is in power and dominant in the galaxy.
And it
is out of balance when the dark side has influence in the galaxy.
Right.
Balance is not equal good and evil. Balance is the light side in power.
And Freddie Prinze Jr. 2 + 2 does not equal balance either.
Don't even.
Did you see that clip? One of my very first videos was a fucking. I hate the video.
So that's what I mean. Is like Andor shows that many times in people who were fighting for the rebellion, overthrew the Empire, did legitimately evil things, and I'm like, I don't think the light side of the Force would be willing to help, people out, because it goes into philosophy where the ends do not justify the means. If you are willing to perpetrate evil to achieve a good, you're becoming just as evil as the thing you're trying to stop. Okay. It is better to suffer defeat and keep your standards and morality than to compromise those standards just for victory. Okay. It is better to lose while staying true to what is good than winning through becoming just as evil. Andor, one of the points of the show is that it's justified to do evil to overthrow a bad thing, and I hate that. And it comes into full-blown reality when Luthen murders the guy that is sacrificed. Like, this guy has done more for the rebellion than anyone else, right? And done so much crucial things to help the rebellion. And in this moment of greatest need, where he has supposedly the greatest bit of information to give the rebellion, he gets murdered for it. I hate that at a fundamental level, right? And if they wanted this to feel like Star Wars, they should have been a redemption arc where Luthen starts with morally gray and he realizes that he can't become as evil as the Empire in overthrowing it. And that moment could have been a decision moment where he will not murder. Like other times, it was like they're almost traitors, like that. Sorry, let me finish. That friend of Mon Mothma, right? He was almost a traitor, and so it's typical because there's more thing. This guy, we don't know if he did anything actually wrong. He wasn't betraying anyone. He was in a moment of need, and Luthen decided to murder him because it was easier, right? That could have been his moment of redemption, where Luthen says, "I'm not going to be as evil as the Empire. I'm going to do everything in my power to save you and your family because you've done so much for the cause," right? Sorry, you can go. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, Luthen didn't have an exit strategy. He didn't even have an exit strategy for himself.
That was out of character for him, though. He was such a player.
No, because he was basically, this is him going down with the ship. He knew it was coming, he could have gotten out, and he decided not to. He decided to secure everything, make sure everything, and then basically go out on his own terms, which I will say the way he went out with the knife and everything is stupid in that way, where he was able to be kept alive. But like getting Lonnie out, like there was never getting any Lonnie out. And the best way for Luthen to actually protect Lonnie's family, and I know on a moral standpoint, I know where you're coming from, Shad. And, you know, I feel like this is sort of influenced by your own actual religious beliefs and all of that sort of thing too, right? Like the way that you feel about like seeing that am I wrong, or is that, am I?
Well, first, I think Luthen would have. I think they've established Luthen as such a meticulous planner. He absolutely would have an exit strategy.
But he didn't have one for Lonnie. He got the information from Lonnie. He doesn't actually have an exit strategy for himself, and he knows that the pressure's on right now. I think
you know what would I think would have been better.
I think that it is a little bit more in character for him to be doing. What
I think he should have tried to get him to safety, but still,
you got me defending it.
Yeah, I know. Look at you. No, like it would have been so much more powerful for me if Luthen tried to save his life but still failed, and then Lonnie, the guy, turns to him and says, "Kill me. They can't capture me." And he tells Luthen to do the job for him, and that would have had more power to it, because that would have is consented to that sacrifice, and would have shown Luthen trying to save someone who has done so much for him in the cause. The fact that Luthen just straight up murders him makes me hate the character.
Fair enough. I see it a little bit differently. Yeah. I do see that scene a little bit differently.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. This is what I mean, right? To me, Star Wars, the whole concept of Star Wars, what it is a story of more noble heroism, right? It's not Game of Thrones. And Andor seems to be trying to muddy the waters and make it Game of Thrones. And I saw, interesting comments and just disparity where he was saying, like, morality is a luxury belief and stuff like that. But that's why I feel these stories are important, because he says having morality isn't really worth much if they cause you to lose and be subjugated to evil. I actually, I have a more religious perspective where, to me, trying to overthrow evil on Earth is not of greater priority than proving me to being a righteous person in my life, because it's what happens after this life and how I am judged for my actions is more important than me conceding to doing evil things. So I'll still fight evil, but I'm not going to compromise my standards in doing it. And if winning and overcoming evil, this is one of the reasons why I loved the film 2012, I think it is. Anyway, that's a disaster movie, but it has a good moral message, has a similar thing at the end, where it's worth risking failure, even in fighting to overcome evil. It's worth risking that failure if that risk is necessary to keep your standards and morals. And to me, that is a noble moral message that I think is what the core of original Star Wars was about. And Andor just goes down the line of being morally grey and
but see, for me, Luthen was never a good character.
But he could have become one.
Sorry, that sounds really, really bad. Like never, like a good character, like a good person. Like maybe back before he started doing all of this stuff, like he's actually, what I'm saying is he actually is a good character, like well done. But like what was I saying? Like he's, from when he started doing this stuff and essentially trying to build this rebellion, it basically, he became a different person. He was never, he killed people to shut them up.
Hang on.
He killed
Nathan Cassidy. I'm not sure where you're coming from. There's no good and evil in Star Wars. That's what the core fundamental theme is of Star Wars, good and evil. That's what the dark and light side of the forces are, good and evil. That is 100%. Star Wars is a story about good and evil. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to say, Luthen showed that, in the wedding when he kills Mon Mothma's lover, that's what I call him. When he gets him killed, like just eliminate the threat of being found out in any way, shape, or form. And with Lonnie being like right at the end of everything, he's finally got this last piece of information that is what basically all of these things, all of these missions that basically he's been involved with have been coming to, is this weapon, and that's really the only information that they've got. But now he's got that information. There's no way out for Lonnie. The best way to protect his family is to kill him and tie up that loose end at the same time, because then he can't speak. He basically tempts him with telling him Yavin. He's never heard of Yavin. That's where I'm going to take you and your family, but I need your information first. You know, I actually think that it is on character for the character of Luthen.
Yeah,
the character of Luthen even existing in the first place is where
my issue is that it's not out of character. I think he could have got it's not out of character for Luthen. I agree with you there. I think he could have gone on a redemptive arc where he becomes better and chooses to not murder someone. That would have been vastly more satisfying for me. And my point is that I really like, even though it's in character, I hate him as a character now as a result. Is a murderer who's willing to essentially now do any amount of evil to overthrow evil. Is like, you're just as bad as them. I don't care. You can die. You know?
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to see that and they needed to show that, they needed to show that earlier, because they couldn't have done that with Lonnie. Under no circumstances was Lonnie ever going to survive.
I don't know. I think he could. It would have worked if they tried to save him, and then Lonnie. They could have justified it narratively. I think they could have, but I'm not saying
they could have written it. But I actually think that the way that they've done it is completely, like, for me, it's actually fine. Like, and Luthen killing him as well.
I think that's fair. Like I said, I'm sharing a subjective opinion. I think wouldn't it be more powerful if they tried to save him, but they know it's impossible? But Luthen, like, I just can't murder the guy. It's done too much for me. And then Lonnie is the one that says, we can't escape. You have to kill me. I can't be captured. I think that would have been way more powerful myself, because then we have noble sacrifice instead of straight murder, you know. So,
you could have written it that way. That's fair.
Yeah. Bombchus for $5 says the last thing Star Wars to come out was a MAA novel, Crucible. I wish they would have finished the Sword of the Jedi trilogy before the axe came down. Do you know what that one is?
I know Crucible. I haven't read it. And I know what he's talking about with sort of the Jedi. There's basically the last story in the EU that was being written hasn't been concluded because, of course, they decanonized everything. So there's no conclusion to at least that story, is my understanding of it. Again, like, I am still breaking into the EU, and I've read a lot of stories now. Like, I feel like I know a lot more. And this is the thing for me, is like, before Disney taking over, I knew the stories in the EU. I knew the characters. I knew about Jaina and Jason Solo. I knew about Ben Skywalker, Anakin Solo. I knew about those kids. I knew the stories. And I was just waiting for it to be shown on screen. Didn't get it, so I'm like, all right, well, we're never going to get it. So I started reading the EU, and man, there's a lot in there, guys.
There's a lot of good stuff. I hear a lot of good stuff,
dude.
So
Plagueis is fantastic. You've got the Maul novels. You got Maul Lockdown and Shadowhunter, which both of those books are fucking great, and they actually both tie into the Plagueis novel really well as well. The Obi-Wan Kenobi book is actually really good. I think it's like a slow, isolated story, but that's fantastic. Of course, you've got the Thrawn trilogy, and then moving forward from that, go back and read the Bane trilogy. Those three books I really like, although the middle one I think is the weakest one, but like it's still the first one's that's really good. Go read that.
All right.
But yeah, anyway, there's some good stories in there.
Yeah, I've heard that, and gee, I'm tempted to dive into it, man. Taker 610 for $2 says yes, good save, Lit Dev. What was your save? I can't remember now.
Me neither, but you're welcome.
You're welcome. All right, and wow, we've nearly gone an hour over, but that happens when we get on a very engaging topic, and there's a lot to discuss about.
I guess I better watch it.
I end up on streams. I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No, dude. Thanks for coming on, man. When on Flashcast you mentioned you had the week off, and I was like, we're going to be talking about Andor. I needed to get you on. And I just remembered last night, I was like, oh crap, I need to invite Rhino. And,
no, thank you.
Nah, dude, thanks for coming on. This has been wild. I've loved it.
Of course.
Awesome. Is there anything you want to mention?
Good. I was just going to say, good to see you too, Dev.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun listening to all the discussion. I guess I better watch Andor. I mean,
yeah, you can let us know what you think, and then we'll have another 2-hour discussion.
Get your own thoughts and opinions on it. Let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually interested. I think you might like it. I don't know.
I'll push through the first couple episodes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
There you go.
Well, look, that's one of the big failings in Andor. So many people check out so early because it starts so boring.
No.
I love slow burns. I do like slow burns, but I mean that was just like it wasn't a slow burn is kind of like a real long kind of like fuse to a bomb. It might take a while to get there, but it's just going straight there. I know where we're going. Everything that happens gets us a little bit further. It's just we're being pushed by inches instead of feet or whatever. So, but Andor was like we start the burn and then we kind of stomp it out, and then we do a sidestep, and then a sidestep to something else, and we're no longer continuing the story. We're kind of just like putting pieces or discovering new pieces or whatever, and it's like none of that feels like we're continuing the story. At least in the first episode, we don't know how they continue the story. It's kind of like left up to a mystery or something. But I didn't have any idea at all on how it's going to overall connect to the story at hand, which is him, I guess, running away or trying to prepare or whatever, trying to sidestep the whole consequences of killing these 2 Imperial soldiers. Like that's what I was ready to see, and we kind of sidestepped that. So that's kind of where I was like, well, this is kind of boring. I want to watch
really
this.
do feel like the viewership was affected by everything that came before. People have been falling off. It's been a constant nosedive of viewership.
The season 2 has grown towards the last episodes. It's at the moment, it started like similar to Acolyte, which isn't good, but it has ended a bit higher than Acolyte. It seems like still in the low areas. And like I said, I'm not sure it's going to catch on.
Same thing that happened with season 1. The viewership started really low and then sort of climbed a little bit near the end. And the same thing, I guess, with this.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what legs it has. But hey, Rhino, is there anything you want to mention while we are saying goodbye?
No, well, this week I do have this week off work. So if Anna's streaming this week, I think we'll be talking about Andor as well. I'll talk about Andor all this week because I didn't get to talk about it all last week. So, and let me filter it out. So if she does a stream, I'm hoping to be over there as well. I'm going to be doing my stream on Fridays, Casual Rage. Nice. Which is Thursdays for you guys in the States. And you can also catch me on Flashcast, where at the moment I'm just getting drunk.
Sorry, the fact that you were taking a double shot thinking it was a single, that was funny.
I was a mess by the end of that stream.
Hey, Litdev, anything you want to mention while we sign off?
I got my new video out finally. It's been out for a couple of days, about a week or so. And 2.5 hours long, down to the minute, the exact length of time of The Last Jedi. So it's not longer than Last Jedi. It's the exact length of time Last Jedi. Exactly. People have been liking it pretty well. So if you haven't yet, check it out.
Check it out. And everyone knows where I am. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate you. Appreciate guys in the chat. And here's the thing, like that's I mentioned at the beginning before we even started the Andor thing. If you like it, got nothing against you. Like there are things that I really dislike. Like let's look at like The Last Jedi and other things like that. If you like it, fine. We can have a discussion. If you say it's good, then we'll get into it. But already I've seen too many people just like, oh, you're an idiot if you like it or dislike it. They're just, oh, come on, grow up. Too much of that happening, people. Yeah. All righty, but we will see you all later. Appreciate you, and as always, stay on watch.